are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Crosscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Crosscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Ross Shaw talks about building income in retirement.
You know, you can actually structure it in a way that have that $4,000 a month coming in the door every single month. So you don't have to look at the stock ticker and say, oh, the stock market's up today, stock market's down. You still got that $4,000 a month, and having that opportunity to take the vacations and do all the fun things in retirement that you always dream to do.
Unleash your wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
The summer heat in Chicagoland is no joke. And if your old air conditioner is making funny noises, you may already know it's time for a new unit.
Look, your air conditioner, it's a disaster. People are telling me it's the worst ever.
Don't sweat it, literally. When it comes to cooling your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Rebates are still available, financing is flexible, and at Air Right installations are smooth and professional with no surprises.
It's beautiful. Some people say it's the coolest air anyone's ever felt. I don't know. That's just what they're saying. It's doing an incredible job. Really tremendous.
Plus, tell them AM 560 sent you, and Air Right will give you $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling, doing it right since 1959.
When it comes to industrial coating and finishing, cutting corners isn't an option. That's why leading manufacturers across the Midwest trust D&D Industrial Coatings in Racine, Wisconsin. From powder coating and liquid painting to blasting and custom finishing, D&D Industrial delivers top-tier protection and performance, fast, precise, and built to last. With over 40 years of experience, ISO-certified processes, and state-of-the-art lines, D&D handles everything from OEMs and petrochemical to agriculture, marine, construction, medical, and government specs. Family-owned, nationally trusted. Whether it's a short run or high volume, your parts are in expert hands, finished on time and finished right. Visit them today, ddindustrial.net. Again, that's ddindustrial.net. Or call them at 262-637-0686 to get your custom quote today. Again, that's 262-637-0686. D&D Industrial Coatings. Engineered to protect. Finished to impress.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be very warm with plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 61. Tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies and continued warmth with a high of 84. Thursday will bring sun shining through high clouds and very warm temperatures, reaching a high of 87. By Friday, it will be mostly cloudy but remaining warm with a high of 83. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So how did he do? Does he have a career in radio post-politics? I'm talking about J.D. Vance, of course, yesterday on our airwaves hosting the Charlie Kirk Show. I think did pretty well. Bits and pieces of it I caught. But there were a couple of key pronouncements from the vice president, including his addressing the both sides argument.
In a country of 330 million people, you can, of course, find one person of a given political persuasion justifying this or that or almost anything. But the data is clear. People on the left are much likelier to defend and celebrate political violence. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, one side has a much bigger and malignant problem, and that is the truth we must be told.
Yeah, proportionality matters. In addition to the exact nature of much of the recent mass violence. I'm talking about the trans aspect to this story, and that needs to be developed further. Just a reminder, too, we're only not just a moments removed from the trans shooter at Annunciation Catholic School Church in Minnesota, but also from this coordinated attack on ICE on right around the 4th of July down in Texas. You remember 10 suspect charged July 4th attack on Texas ICE facility. Of the 11 people that were, of the 10 people that were arrested, there were 11 suspects at the time facing charges of terrorism, aggravated assault on public servants with a deadly weapon, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon against a peace officer, and so forth. Several of them were trans, and it's all part of this sort of leftist accumulation of their identitarian coalition members that choose to cross that line from advocacy or protest into violence. Several trans women, part of a group of activists who initially united around trans and queer identity issues. Now the women dressed in bathrobes, well, trans women, so men, dressed in bathrobes and pajamas were being detained at gunpoint, according to neighbors who witnessed the SWAT team surround the residence where these subversives were congregating down in Texas. And I raised that because, of course, yesterday we started to talk about this a bit more. And then we heard from Patel and Bongino that, this investigation is at its early stages, and it may turn out that it goes beyond certainly the assassin, maybe even beyond whoever he was communicating with on that Discord app, but perhaps including those he communicated with on that Discord app. This was Kash Patel yesterday on Fox and Friends addressing it.
His family has collectively told investigators that he subscribed to left-wing ideology, and even more so in these last couple of years. And he had a text message exchange, he, the suspect, with another individual, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for. Those are factually accurate investigatory findings by the FBI that we've handed over to the local authorities and the federal authorities to make their prosecutorial decisions. But I believe in this instance of such public importance, the public has a right to know. And I've told you I'm committed to transparency, and that's what I'm doing here today.
Why didn't that person that he was talking to, why didn't that person say something?
Our investigation is ongoing. That's a great question, and we don't have an answer on that just yet.
Yeah, that is a good question. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of good questions that remain unanswered with respect to who the assassin communicated with. So did somebody not pick up what he was laying down, or was somebody sort of in on it? That's a big distinction. And that's sort of what Bongino picked up on as well a little bit later yesterday morning, talking to Bill Hemmer on Fox. Who saw what, who knew what in advance, including, by the way, that tweet I raised at the beginning of the week about the individual who posted on X, Charlie Kirk is coming to my campus tomorrow. I really hope someone evaporates him literally. Let's just say something big will happen tomorrow. That person reportedly, who posted that on Twitter, is reportedly being investigated. So again, the casting of a wide net in terms of the communication, the evidence of communication with other people that the FBI has and is gathering.
Family members said he'd become more political, leading us to believe that this ideology had infected him and had taken over. And he was just intent, it appears, from the data we've accumulated and the channel and that note, which we have some evidence may have existed before based on the communications in that channel, that his target was obviously going to be Charlie and that people knew in advance. The question is, again, I just want to go back to what you had asked before. Did they know? Were they sure of this? Or did they hear this and just write it off? That's what we're going to have to find out. And that's what we're investigating now. Bill, this investigation is just begun. This isn't even the beginning of the beginning. You know, yes, we have a subject in custody. You know, everybody's innocent until proven guilty in our constitutional republic. However, this is not done by any stretch. Our men and women out there in the Bureau have worked tirelessly all weekend. I just got back to D.C. Last night. And, Cash and I were out there on the scene. We walked the scene. We went through every single component of it. We saw the evidence up close and personal. And we went out there to be able to make command decisions with our team on the ground. And I think the process, although not perfect, of course, I think the process went pretty well considering we got him in 33 hours.
Okay, yeah. It also includes the minders on that app in question, Discord, because the Amazon Post there reported that the assassin confessed on Discord. This is a quote of the message according to the Amazon Post. Hey guys, I have bad news for y'all. It was me at UVU, Utah Valley University, yesterday, and I'm sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've all been so amazing. Thank you all for everything. Discord said their own investigation found, quote, no evidence that the suspect planned this incident or promoted violence on Discord. Well, if the Amazon Post reporting is true, then what Discord says their investigation found is inaccurate. And one wonders how they missed that. So, again, Patel and Bongino both saying, there are many more Discord users to speak with who were believed to be in this communication circle. And then I would say the proprietors of Discord themselves. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Corey in Woodlawn.
Hey, thanks for taking the call, Dan. This is, to me, like the situation that just unfolded in California, where the state legislature codified in law where the ICE agents can't use masks. This is, to me, a soft threat to ICE agents, because if you take your mask off, what are they going to do next? They're going to go after these individuals and target them in what I believe would be violence. So I think one side, to me, just the 60s, has had a real problem when they don't get their way.
Yes, thanks for the call, Corey. The orientation towards violence that we're talking about among a certain subset of the left. And J.D. Vance, by the way, addressed that yesterday, filling in on Charlie Kirk's show as well.
We can thank God that most Democrats don't share these attitudes, and I do, while acknowledging that something has gone very wrong with a lunatic fringe, a minority, but a growing and powerful minority on the far left. There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics. There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree.
Yeah, there are limitations to our capacity to unify. There's no question. Coming up at 5:38, we'll continue on this topic. Fold in our very own governor, J.B. Pritzker, had some important comments about toning down the rhetoric. Yes, we're going to measure the size of the glass house in which J.B. Pritzker lives at 5:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 66 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Freddie Hammer. Sunny today with a high of 78. A man died after being shot inside a Southside home Monday afternoon. Fox 32 reports the shooting happened about 3:19 p.m. on South Anthony Avenue. The man was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center, where he later died of those injuries. No arrests have been made as of yet. A smash-and-grab burglary turned into a police chase in Oak Park early Monday. ABC 7 says 5 suspects rammed a pawn shop on North Avenue, then fled in a stolen red sedan. The chase ended in Maywood with a crash. 3 suspects were arrested. 2 remain at large. Chicago CTA is installing free Naxalone vending machines at 5 rail stations. The opioid reversal drug will be available anonymously and at no cost, aiming to save lives and reduce overdose deaths across the city. And Chicago honored Pope Leo XIV's 70th birthday with a plaque at Insight Hospital, his birthplace. Staff, faith leaders, and community members gathered to celebrate the legacy of the first American pope. The hospital, once Mercy, continues its mission to serve the vulnerable. News is a service of Blindster.com. Blindster.com sells custom blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices. Their blinds are handcrafted to fit your windows, and if they don't, for any reason, they'll remake them for free. Your satisfaction is always guaranteed at Blindster.com.
The facts.
And one of the things that the FBI has done is studied the sort of psychology and just the phenomenon that we live through uniquely in this country.
Uniquely in this country? If you compare the annual death rate from mass public shootings from January 2009 to December 2015, for example, death rate per million, number 1 was Norway. U.S. isn't until number 11.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Don't get stuck with a cold shower this fall. Give CenterGuard Plumbing a call. Get a new 40-gallon water heater installed for just $1,195 for standard installation, or a 50-gallon heater for $1,295 standard installation. A proud new sponsor of AM 560, CenterGuard is offering specials on new water heaters. Don't wait. The cold temperatures are coming, and the same can happen to your water heater. If you're having hot water issues or your water heater's over 8 years old, take advantage of this fall special today. CenterGuard Plumbing is Chicagoland's same-day water heater experts. Call before noon and they can schedule your repair or install the same day on in-stock water heaters. They'll even haul away your old one, no charge. You're only a text away from install today. Call 847-406-8883. Mention AM 560 to receive fall special pricing. That's 847-406-8883. Call or text 847-406-8883 or visit CenterGuardPlumbing.com.
Unreadable, inconsistent part marking is more than a nuisance. It's a liability. When your part marks fade, your quality and credibility also fade. GT Schmidt helps manufacturers leave a permanent mark on their products. Laser, dot peen, scribe, and roll marking systems. Our machines engrave everything from serial numbers, date codes, certification marks, barcodes, 2D matrices, and logos on metal, plastic, anodized coatings, and more. GT Schmidt laser systems provide high speed, versatility, and durability with non-contact precision. Harsh environment, rugged parts? GT Schmidt pin markers produce deep, reliable marks. Parts small or large, flat or round, we engineer systems to your specific application. GT Schmidt, the name for dependable part identification and traceability, setting the standards since 1895. Right now, save 10% off standard GeoMark Pro lasers and standard Styliner pin markers. Visit gtschmidt.com for the marking machine that's right for you. Made in the USA. GT Schmidt, your mark made to last.
What if the music stopped? If the familiar voices were silenced? If there were no breaking news updates? What if your companion and connection to your community came with a monthly fee? Don't worry, we're free local radio with you wherever you go, celebrating 100 years and looking forward to the next 100. We are broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and let Congress know you depend on your local TV and radio stations. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be very warm with plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 61. Tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies and continued warmth with a high of 84. Thursday will feature sun shining through high clouds, remaining very warm with a high of 87. Friday will be mostly cloudy, but still warm with a high of 83. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Illinois Governor Jelly Belly Pritzker was asked at one of his media avails yesterday what Trump should be saying right now. And because people look to J.B. Pritzker for mollifying language during these difficult times, he always knows just what to say. Always rises above the fray with something important and thoughtful, doesn't he? Man. Well, here's the advice and counsel that one Governor Pritzker has for one President Trump.
I would like to hear the President of the United States, instead of pointing fingers, simply say that political violence has no place in this country and that the president does not condone it. I would hope that on his mind would be peace and calm and prayers instead of finger pointing and criticism.
As I said, how big is the glass house in which J.B. Pritzker resides, and does it or does it not have toilets? Calling for an end to political violence, or political violence has no place, right? Lowering flags to a half-staff this weekend for all the victims of political violence, no one specifically. The both sides rhetoric that you get from, basically a enabler of the illiberal and violent elements within his party. That's what J.B. Pritzker is. But that doesn't mean he won't join in. He was pressed about his previous comparisons, despite his call for tempering our language, his previous comparisons to Trump, to Republicans, the favored Nazi comparison.
That is completely false. I have never called Republicans Nazis.
Really? That's your testimony, Governor?
Everything that he has done has been tearing down constitutional democracy. And that's what happened in Nazi Germany. It doesn't take very long to tear apart a constitutional republic. Indeed, the Nazis did it in 53 days. And our democracy is almost as fragile. And we're seeing it right now. The dangers that we saw in Nazi Germany, especially in the earliest days of Nazi Germany, are the dangers that we need to react to now. If we don't, things will get much, much worse. And so we've got to raise alarm bells to everybody. It's a 5-alarm fire, everyone.
And that doesn't even get into all of the posts on X and elsewhere, the written word, where he engaged in the same sort of rhetoric. It was featured in his most recent State of the State address, which we've brought to you on this program any number of times. Basically a supercut of what you just heard there. Took the occasion to talk about that. The state of Illinois, with all of its intractable problems and the fact that it is basically in the bottom of 5 in every quality of life metric in the country. But wanted to spend a State of State address describing Trump's reelection as the rise of the Reich, which he has done routinely, which he has been criticized for by Holocaust survivors, by the way. But he's never done it. Of course he has. This is what J.D. Vance was talking about in that clip from yesterday's Charlie Kirk show, where he hosted, that I played before the break, which is gaslighting people, saying, ascribing to Charlie Kirk positions he didn't have, things that he never said. Like when Stephen King says Charlie Kirk advocated for the stoning of gay people. Things like that, for example. Incredible. And also this business here, where the worst offenders when it comes to incendiary rhetoric talk about the need to tamp down the passions and are providing advice and counsel what the president should say and criticism for what he has said or hasn't said, while they characterize themselves as never having engaged in the sort of conduct that they're now decrying. Like everything with the new Marxist Party, it's a charade. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Robert Sterling he's got a pretty good following on X. He's according to him, finance guy, Marine. He had a long riff on where things stand. That's sort of interesting. It's not novel, but it's interesting, and it was well composed. So I'll offer the upside of it to you because it's sort of relevant to both what Vance said as well as what Pritzker's saying. It's a little bit about self-awareness and general awareness of where we are right now. He writes, my liberal friends are completely oblivious about how radicalizing the last week has been for tens of millions of normal Americans. Zero clue. I'm not talking about people who are online. I mean regular, everyday Americans, normies, people who scroll through Facebook posts and Instagram reels from the Dutch Brothers drive-through line, political moderates who have water cooler chats about Mahomes touchdowns and Bon Jovi concerts, not Twitter threads or Rachel Maddow monologues. Millions of them, tens of millions, they're logging on, they're engaging, and they're furious. And I'll be candid, they blame you guys. They blame the left. Regardless of whether you believe it is to be believe it to be justified, they think you're the bad guys here, and they are reacting accordingly. I can already hear some of you racing toward the comments to start screeching in moral indignation, so I'm going to be blunt. Shut up and listen to what I'm telling you. Your movement will lose any semblance of relevance if you don't develop some small measure of self-awareness and, absent someone force-feeding you bitter medicine, you guys collectively lack the humility to do this on your own. And he goes through the killing of that Ukrainian refugee, of course, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And he argues that this is what's happening. These normal, middle-of-the-road, non-political citizens just became politically active. They realize that politics cares about them, even if they don't particularly care about politics. After watching Zarutska and Charlie Kirk both bleed out from the neck, they think their lives and physical safety of their families, the bedrock of human society, the foundation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, depend on political activation, whether they desired or not. These people are now sprinting, not jogging, not walking, but racing to the right because they blame you guys for everything that just happened. Do you think that's what's happening? Do you feel that there is this a rush of the quote-unquote normies, the people that don't follow politics on a daily basis the way that most of the people listening to this show probably do? The normies are rushing to get engaged. Is that what's happening? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Robert in Bloomingdale.
Good morning. Dan, we do need more political discussion. You need to invite Dave Smith or Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson, and you need to dig a little deeper on what's really going on, because you're avoiding a few subjects that are being discussed on the internet.
Really? Which are those?
Which are those?
Yeah.
Are entangling alliances with countries that are leading us into doing things that are against American interests, and the influence of foreign powers that are making this country go in a direction that's very dangerous.
So you're talking about
Israel. You know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
So you're talking about Israel is what you're talking about.
Oh, that's one of them. It's not just Israel. It's also Qatar, which is playing both sides of a very dangerous game.
Yes.
Qatar is one of them too.
Yes.
And Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And you're not talking about those things. And the UK and also the United Kingdom.
Okay.
Also, they're very entangled.
Yes, and we've talked about all of that at length, including some of the things that Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Dave Smith have had to say about Israel. So actually, Robert, We have talked about that all of those countries and all of the entanglements and the geopolitics of it, and we will continue to. So listen more routinely. Or go into the archives. That's the fun of the digital world. Maurice and Berwyn.
Yeah, Dan. Oh, God, Dan. Please, not Candace Owens. Anything but that. Come on, buddy. You're way too smart for that.
Well, I didn't say I agreed with them. I said we've discussed it.
I know, but come on, bud. My point to your screen was, I guess previously conversation was about, hey, I didn't want people to forget about Timothy McVeigh and David Koresh.
Come on. What does that mean? What does that mean? Forget about Koresh and McVeigh.
Just saying, if you're talking about profiling, that those two individuals did exist in a period of time in American history, and that we don't want to just label a certain political party. Those people represent some extremism.
Yes, they did. But wait. Do you think?
I'm not saying they were Republicans.
No.
They're extremists.
Well, yes. Well, obviously, but the But do you agree with the proportionality argument that you heard J.D. Vance make yesterday?
Here's my thing. I'm more concerned about, instead of Nazism, my biggest concern with Vance was him telling people to call and report other people. That's not Nazism. I'm like, hey, dude, that's a little McCarthyism. That's where my brain goes. And I know maybe that's an nth degree. But what's going on with that, man?
Well, you're not. He's calling on. You're talking about people who are, like in this instance, if there were these conversations on Discord that allegedly happened, talking about situations like that where somebody is making specific threats to commit a criminal, violent act, then of course you want people to alert authorities, right? I mean, that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about snitching on people because they are not. This isn't East Germany, lives of others. Snitching on people because they're not following the party diktats. That's not what he's saying.
I know, but the problem becomes without clarification, and there's going to be some people in America who takes things and run. And I often fear that there's a population of people here who takes things anyone says, not just you guys, and runs with it.
Do you fear people taking what J.B. Pritzker says and running with it? What Maxine Waters says and running with it? What Ilhan Omar says and running with it?
100%. Because there's always going to be a population of people who cannot understand nuance. 100%. There's always going to be those people. And that's a tough thing. There's always people who cannot figure out nuance.
Let me, and also can't figure out when they're listening to a crank or a raving lunatic. But
yes,
but answer the question I posed to everybody, yourself included, which is, do you think that, as Robert Sterling wrote, that there's this rush to engagement from by normies, like people that in your life who are not particularly politically active? Are they all of a sudden getting engaged? Are they being repelled, or are they just trying to make sense of it all?
I personally knew a few people did know who Charlie Kirk was, and they kind of figured it out through this process. And so I think you do have people who may rush in. My theory has always been there's just a group of independents who just kind of swing back and forth in the pendulum. And they'll just go wherever the wind blows because they just have no sense of understanding of legislation. But I think so. I think you're going to have people who are like, oh, gosh, this sounds good to me. And then somebody else will say something else. Oh, that sounds good to me. And they'll rush over there. So I think so. You do have things that ignites people. And this is kind of one of those moments for him. I said this plenty of times. I'm African American. I'll leave it there in regards to him. But no one should be harmed for anything they say.
All right.
100%.
Thanks for the call, Maurice. Tony, Downers Grove.
Hey, Dan, hope you can hear me okay. I think on social media that the left is doubling down. At least that's what I see when I'm on there. As far as millions rushing, I think if you've had friends that have been demonizing Trump, maybe they've gone a little softer. because if they know that you are a Trump supporter, they're going to tread a little more lightly now. I'm not sure about millions, but I think millions are more awake now. But I think the social media is as incendiary as it has ever been.
Thanks for the call, Tony. Yeah, well, not to mention that the left is still engaged in violence and vandalism. I mean, smashing Charlie Kirk memorials, defacing property with messages like "kill all Charlie Kirks." Yeah, certainly threats online. Yeah. But, I just wonder what the staying power is really here. I always wonder that in the wake of these sorts of tragedies that are supposed to be clarifying for us and that are supposed to demand action from us in terms of trying to maintain the structure of a free society, trying to repair our torn social fabric and all the other metaphors. And there's a lot of hand-wringing, and there's a lot of messaging, and there's a lot of analysis, and then there's a sort of a reversion or a regression to the mean, if you will, of where things were before. Because especially on the right, conservatives have sort of been wooed by comfortable materialism. They mainly want to be left alone. And there's sort of an acceptance, I think, generally speaking, that things are always going to move in a leftward trajectory. But in exchange, most of us are going to do okay. We get to eat out. We get to enjoy our hobbies. And until life is so difficult or treacherous that entertainment doesn't do the trick, I don't think you're going to have this sort of hyper engagement of the normies that Robert Sterling is suggesting is happening. I really don't. That's not because I don't want to see that happen. I'm just describing what I think will happen, what I think is happening. I think that people will go back to their fantasy football leagues and their other interests. And I understand you can't sort of obsess about this, nor should you obsess about this every waking moment of every day. People have lives to lead. They have children to raise. They have jobs to do and so forth. And they want a little R&R from all of their responsibilities. And the responsibility that always is the first casualty is civic engagement. Isn't it? I mean, isn't that what you see? So you're telling me in the March primary election in Illinois, we're going to see record turnout? Just on the simple task, the simple responsibility of the franchise, participating in an election by making the time to vote. I doubt it. Highly skeptical. So all of this, you don't know how radicalizing this has become, and you don't know what's coming, and there's something coming. I'm not sure. I don't think there is actually much coming. I think that the divisions will sharpen. I mean, I'm not saying that Charlie Kirk will be forgotten. He clearly will not, particularly in the lives of people who grew up with him and were so influenced by him. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just in terms of our political environment. It's going to be materially different. Pritzker is going to stop saying the things that he's saying, demonizing Trump and Trump voters for short-term political gain, whether for his reelection or for his presidential ambitions, and the rest of the erstwhile presidential contenders on the left. That's going to change. Things are going to change in River Forest and Hinsdale and Glencoe. Really? Do you think so? 312-642-5600, Turnkey.Pro answer line. Keith in Morton Grove.
Morning, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say, being that, the country's on high alert and under abundance of threats going in daily, what does Titan Point play in this? And, that they didn't see any of these posts online from the Minneapolis shooter, these high-profile politicians being named in assassination attempts or, threats, and, these agencies aren't able to step in. I mean, what is the point in having them then?
Well, yeah, thanks for the call. I mean, but I mean, in terms of we're talking about Discord being this platform, I mean, that's a discrete platform. That's not public. And, there is this idea that we want to be able to freely communicate in this country without being under constant surveillance by the state. So, it's these are complications in a free society. You want the right to freely communicate, but you also have to have people that are responsible enough if they get wind that someone is plotting to kill someone for their politics or any other reason for that matter, that they will seek out authorities. I mean, that's the balance. It goes back to what I said before. I mean, that's the civic responsibility. Well, don't we have agencies for that? Yeah, we also have human beings, a free people that are supposed to be engaged enough to know that if they can stop a violent act, they should try to do so, because violence is destructive of a free society. Greg in Jefferson Park.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I think that, you're pretty much right for the most part in the short term. Not much is going to change. And, the deep state is getting deeper and they're spying on us more every day of the week. But it's my understanding that there's 18,000 new applications for Charlie Quirk's organization, among chapters, high schools, and colleges.
Yep.
And if that's the case, then, the youth of this country has pretty much had it with the way things are. A lot of them know that with the debt and everything else, that they're not going to live as good as their parents did, and, so on and so forth. And I think in the long term, if these people are serious, I'm talking about the young now, and doing that and organizing and getting out and knocking on doors and doing all that, I think in the longer term, you're going to see a change. Because, they don't want to see what's been happening, and the future looks bleak to them now, and if things keep going the way they are, it's going to get a lot bleaker.
Thanks for the call, Greg. No, I mean, I agree. The long term, and this sparks 18,000 more chapters. Even if a fraction of those come into fruition, then for sure. I am talking short term. Long term, I'm perhaps more optimistic about Gen Z, certainly than I can be complimentary of the baby boomers and even my own Gen Xers. It is now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Tyler Robinson will go to court today. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The suspected Charlie Kirk assassin will face murder and other charges.
The suspect told at least several individuals that he was planning to assassinate Charlie Kirk. In one of those instances, it was in a note he left for his romantic partner. In another, it was a text message to a separate individual. Neither person has been charged, but they could be down the road.
Fox's Garrett Tenney at the Utah County Jail. The Washington Post also reports Robinson confessed in an online group chat before his arrest. Another city is getting a federal crime crackdown like Washington, Memphis.
The effort will include the National Guard as well as the FBI, ATF, DEA, ICE, Homeland Security investigations, and the U.S. Marshals.
President Trump announcing that task force alongside Tennessee lawmakers, including Republican Governor Bill Lee.
I'm tired of crime holding the great city of Memphis back.
The president says Chicago will be next, where state and city leaders are not supporting a National Guard deployment.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House, where the president also touted the U.S. military blowing up another boat, killing 3 people suspected of transporting drugs from Venezuela.
We have proof. All you have to do is look at the cargo that was like it's spattered all over the ocean. Big bags of cocaine and fentanyl all over the place.
It comes 2 weeks after another drug boat was destroyed. We may hear more from the president a little later this morning before he takes off for Britain. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has left Qatar, where he urged them to continue pushing a ceasefire in Gaza despite last week's Israeli airstrike in that country targeting Hamas.
We want them to know how much we appreciate and respect all that
time and work and effort they put in the past to these negotiations, and we hope they'll re-engage despite everything that's happened. We know they're upset about it.
Now, Israel has launched a new ground offensive targeting Hamas in Gaza City, warning civilians to leave. Americans listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 67 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Freddie Hammer. Sunny today with a high of 78. 2 children and a woman were found dead in Lake Michigan over the weekend near Southside beaches. According to WLS, the Cook County Medical Examiner identified the victims as 1-year-old Jareem J.C. Washington and 6-year-old Wyatt Bryden Patton, both from Madison. Washington was discovered late Saturday morning near 57th Street Beach, while Patton and a 31-year-old woman were recovered near 63rd Street Beach later in the afternoon. Police believe the deaths are connected and may have stemmed from a domestic dispute. The woman's identity has not yet been released, and causes of death are still pending. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement made arrests in Chicago's Little Village on Monday, one day after the Mexican Independence Day parade. According to WLS, witnesses say a Venezuelan man was detained at 24th and Albany while in a car with his wife and children. Community members report that agents did not leave information for the family. Hours later, another man was taken into custody nearby. Local groups are assisting families and urging residents to know their rights. ICE has not yet made any statements. A strike was narrowly avoided in Romeoville, where Valley View teachers reached a tentative deal with District 365U after months of negotiations. According to CBS Chicago, the agreement, confirmed on Friday, comes amid disputes over pay and school start times. Details remain under wraps pending ratification. Meanwhile, teachers in District 146, serving Tinley Park, Oak Forest, and Orland Park, could walk out next Monday as talks over pay and retirement benefits remain stalled. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker signed an executive order last week to safeguard vaccine access amid federal policy changes. According to CBS Chicago, the statewide vaccine access initiative, led by the Illinois Department of Public Health, aims to ensure residents can receive vaccines for COVID-19, flu, RSV, and more. Traffic is a service of Salem Surround, a local digital marketing agency providing high-performing digital solutions to surround your target audience. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Scott Jennings sees more sore losing from the left.
This is Tim Walz, Democrat vice presidential candidate last year.
The last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. There will be news sometime, just so you know, there will be news.
I mean, he's literally sitting there saying, I wake up in the morning hoping to find news that the President of the United States had died.
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at 1, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Rick Borick talks about the risk of being in the stock market right near retirement.
It's easy to drive around with no seatbelt on if you never think you're going to have an accident, right? And you go, well, it's never going to go down. I don't need protection for my portfolio. We're a big fan of getting those gains, but we're also a bigger fan of not taking huge losses.
Unleash your wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Are you living with dry AMD? If so, you could be on the road to geographic atrophy, or GA, a condition that leads to retinal cell death and permanent vision loss. But with Izervay, you can
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay slows GA progression by targeting a key source of retinal cell death, which may help preserve your vision longer. Izervay, or Avastin Captid Pagel, is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
My friend Paula just remodeled her kitchen. I feel bad. It's so
bland.
Yeah. Everyone's using the same templated designs these days or just refacing cabinets.
Let's check out Forever Remodeling. They do full and custom kitchen remodels from the ground up, just for us.
It'd be nice to have a kitchen that's truly ours.
Exactly.
Don't get the same kitchen design as everyone else. Visit Forever Remodeling today at foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com. And tell them AM 560 sent you.
Did you know a will alone does not keep your family out of court when you die? The court still has to approve your will, but get a living trust, and your estate can be settled clearly without issue. Talk to the attorneys at Nauman & Associates. They prepare wills and trusts for a flat fee, no surprises, no hourly rate. With decades of experience, they know the law and offer a free consultation. Contact Nauman & Associates in Elk Grove Village, nalawgroup.com. Call 847-593-8777.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic, a service of AM 560 podcast. Eden's inbound Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes. A 13-minute ride outbound Eden's Montrose to Lake Cook. A 10-minute ride on the Kennedy inbound Montrose to the Burn Interchange. On the outbound Kennedy from the Burn Interchange to Montrose, less than 10. Eisenhower inbound Wolf to the Old Post Office, 14 minutes. Also a 14-minute ride on the Eisenhower outbound from the Old Post Office to Wolf. On the Stevenson inbound 355 to Lakeshore Drive, 26 minutes. Stevenson outbound from Lakeshore Drive to 355, 22 minutes. Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Burn Interchange, 14 minutes. On the outbound Dan Ryan from the Burn Interchange to 95th, you're looking at 10 minutes. Traffic is a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. Hear both shows with limited commercials when you subscribe for free to the daily podcast at 560theanswer.com/podcast. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now here's the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be very warm with plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 61. Tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies and continued warmth with a high of 84. Thursday will bring sun shining through high clouds and very warm temperatures, reaching a high of 87. By Friday, it will be mostly cloudy but remaining warm with a high of 83. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and we didn't get to it yesterday, but I do want to get to it because, of course, this is where the neo-Marxist party in Illinois, this is where they are driving as much attention as they can. And that's to this incident in Franklin Park over the weekend and the incident in Little Village yesterday, as you heard on the news, but more so the incident in Franklin Park because a person was killed. ICE officers fatally shooting a man in Franklin Park after a traffic stop escalated into violence. This happened on Friday. Here's the story.
The family of the man shot and killed by an ICE officer tells me he was a father from Mexico working at a restaurant in the Portage Park area and has lived in the United States for decades. His shooting death sparking outrage.
Dozens of immigrant advocates create a defiant stance in northwest suburban Franklin Park, where an immigration and customs enforcement operation turned deadly. This after the Department of Homeland Security confirms an ICE agent shot and killed Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, a man who the agency says was an undocumented immigrant with a criminal history of reckless driving.
I will miss him and I hope he's resting well.
But to his girlfriend and stepdaughter, who asked us not to show their faces, he was a working 38-year-old father of 3 from Mexico who's lived in the United States for more than 20 years. His girlfriend's daughter translating her heart-wrenching words.
He was a calm guy. He respected people, and he doesn't get into problems with anyone.
Cell video obtained by ABC7 shows the moment when ICE officers removed the man from his crashed car near Grand and Elder Lane. We've frozen the video as it's too graphic to show.
He got hole on his head and bleeding. So the both men, they tried to help and cover with a band-aid his neck.
According to ICE, this happened while its agents were trying to stop the man's car before he resisted arrest and allegedly hit one of their officers while trying to drive away. That officer, the agency says, then fired shots, striking Villegas Gonzalez, who later died at the hospital. DHS saying in a statement in part, quote, "We are praying for the speedy recovery of our law enforcement officer. He followed his training, used appropriate force, and properly enforced the law to protect the public and law enforcement."
I know you were wondering, like I would, if they'd ever get to the rest of the story, excuse my Paul Harvey, why this individual was shot by ICE officers, and then they got to it, didn't they? That didn't stop Chuy Garcia and the other identitarian demagogues from showing up to lodge their grievances in the direction of ICE for those dozens of astroturfing pro-illegal immigration protesters, activists that were out in force.
Look, without a doubt, there's massive racial, ethnic profiling that's taking place, and it's shameful.
Congressman Chuy Garcia of Illinois' 4th District speaking at the scene with other politicians shortly after flying from the nation's capital.
It should not be a deadly consequence to have a traffic violation.
Governor J.B. Pritzker calling the deadly encounter, quote, troubling, saying that the people of Illinois deserve to know what happened.
I think you just told us. Chuy Garcia wants all the video released. Okay. Sure. There's an officer in the hospital because this guy resisted arrest and ran over him. And what did you expect him to do? Not defend himself? When this individual made the unfortunate choice to use his vehicle as a weapon against a police officer, or a law enforcement officer. The lengths they'll go to try to manufacture a controversy. And by the way, if I may be so bold, the reason that that person is dead, I'm gonna stipulate, I don't know, but I'm gonna stipulate that this 39-year-old was who was in this country illegally. And I'm glad, as I said, I'm about to stipulate to the fact that he was law-abiding and a good stepfather and all of those things. Fine. Well, there's two things. One is, even if you're otherwise a good person and you're hardworking, you don't have a right to be in this country illegally. You just don't. And two is, this was called a preventable crime by Chuy Garcia. Yeah, because you don't resist arrest. Oh, but he feared never being able to see his stepdaughter again. Well, you don't resist arrest. You don't endanger the life of a police officer or a law enforcement officer. What are you thinking? What do you think is going to happen? Can we be a little bit rational about this? As opposed to just emoting all over the place like those demagogues you just heard from? Well, that's performative. That's not even genuine emotion. And the third thing, if I may be so bold, the reason that person is dead, that Mexican man who is here illegally, is because of people like Chuy Garcia and Delia Ramirez and J.B. Pritzker and Brandon Johnson and the entire political hierarchy of the neo-Marxist party. Because they have, here we go again, demonized ICE. They call them, Governor Pritzker's called them a terrorist group. He's called them a terrorist group. Terror and cruelty is the point. That's what he said about about both ICE and the National Guard. Be in fear. We have whistle programs to alert people if ICE is in the neighborhood so you can run. It's the same sort of suicidal cultural component that exists in the black community with the race hustlers that lead black people to believe that the police are roving gangs looking for black people to harass or kill, which is literally the things that were said during the height of the defund the police movement, which was about 5 minutes ago. So you tell people again and again and again that these law enforcement organizations, whether it's the Chicago Police Department or ICE, are terrorist organizations that are hunting down minorities, removing, harassing, killing them indiscriminately. And you engender a fear that leads somebody to do something incredibly stupid like this gentleman did, where he resisted police and used his car as a weapon against an ICE officer. So for all the people that are beating their chest, saying how much they are the great protectors of the huddled masses yearning to breathe free, they are the ones who are putting them in harm's way. How many times has Tom Homan said, if you just honor our ICE detainers, we can do all this in the safety of a government building, courthouse, jailhouse, and we don't have to do this on the street. Safer for everyone. But no, we can't do that because we have to make a big political spectacle of ourselves. And if that means it's a more dangerous situation for all parties involved on the streets of Franklin Park, then so be it, because I'm scoring political points in doing so. And if somebody gets killed, so be it, because then I can use that for my political advancement, as Chuy Garcia and those politicians on site over the weekend were doing. They are the responsible party. And because they refuse to have a substantive conversation about immigration policy, throw open the doors, come what may. We can never get to a place where you make some distinctions between cohorts of people who are in this country illegally or what our particular immigration needs are as a country. So we make sensible policy that is even-handed and forward-looking. The people that are dancing before the cameras the most are the people who deserve most of the blame for where things are, including with respect to people getting hurt, obviously on the law enforcement side, but also on the migrant side, something that isn't said and needs to be. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Joe in Naperville.
So let me see if I can understand Chuy Garcia's logic. If there's an ethnicity that has a propensity of committing the most crimes, and we go after them, that's racial profiling. That is so absurd, it's sickening.
Well, thanks for the culture. I don't know the backstory on this guy in Franklin Park that was killed by the ICE officer. What is reported, and then what we come to find out from ICE about the information they have on individuals that they have targeted for pickup and deportation, are often two very different things. Well, this also happened recently. Migrant suspected of being a member of the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua is accused of the brutal murder in Chicago's South Shore neighborhood, where prosecutors say he shot another migrant in the head as the victim begged for his life, and later bragged that he had the body buried in concrete at a construction site. Huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Mostly peaceful. And then the reaction from the left to bona fide victims of open borders policies. I think it's nicely encapsulated by what occurred when Congressman Russell Fry, you remember this? Congressman Russell Fry from South Carolina introduced the Kayla Hamilton Act to protect American communities from UAC placements, unaccompanied alien children. Kayla Hamilton was a 20-year-old autistic woman from Maryland. She was murdered by an unaccompanied alien child who was released to a sponsor by HHS before any background checks were completed, because the Biden-Harris administration did not complete background checks prior to a unaccompanied alien child's release. Authorities were unaware that he was, in fact, an MS-13 gangbanger. Once he was actually taken into custody, the same guy admitted to having committed 4 murders, 2 rapes, and other crimes. And this was the exchange in a House committee between Russell Fry and Jasmine Crockett. Remember this phrase, why I'm bringing this back. There's certain phrases that are said that are real tells and that should live in infamy and in campaign commercials. In response to Russell Fry's Kayla Hamilton Act, Jasmine Crockett said this.
Stop just throwing a random dead person's name on something for your own political expediency.
Random dead person. Every person deserves human dignity. Right, Jasmine? Random dead person. A 20-year-old woman from Maryland murdered by a gangbanger. You want to talk about preventable crime, Chewy? Murdered by a gangbanger, released by the Biden administration, no background check, and he goes on to murder and mayhem all over the place. Random dead person. Here was Russell Fry's response to fake eyelashes spice there, Jasmine.
This person was a vibrant soul, had a life, was pursuing a degree. She's not some random dead person, but she's a symptom of a larger problem, which you guys have ignored for years, which is that we're going to import and fling open the gates of our southern border and allow these individuals to come into this country, that we're not going to vet them, that we're not going to ascertain about where they land, and that we're not even going to follow up. The gentlelady from Wyoming introduced into the record a Homeland Security report. There's a Health and Human Services report about all of the systemic failures of the last administration. And the flippant and, quite frankly, callous response by the gentlelady from Texas is that she's just some random dead girl. Now, she just walked out of the room, so I guess she didn't want to hear this. But her mother, if you want to talk to her mother, which I encourage you to do so that you understand who she was, here's a quote from her mother that she was texting with me. Kayla talked a mile a minute like a hummingbird. She loved animals, especially her cat Oreo. She cared about the homeless. She loved her mommy. She treasured her family and friends. She loved God and loved going to church. She loved her birthday and Christmas. She loved the beach and the pool and swimming. Her voice and laugh carried across the room, even when the room was quiet. She loved music and loved to have fun. She lived every day to the fullest, and boy, did that girl love to sleep. And I can go on and on. This was a young lady who was pursuing a degree as a veterinarian. She wanted to help people. She wanted to live her life. She wasn't some random dead person that we just plucked out of a hat. She is a symptom of a larger problem that
Random dead person. Wow. Maureen, Southside.
Dan, I'd just like to make a comment about ICE agents. They are American citizens, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they are American citizens, and our politicians, especially in Chicago and Illinois, they are against the American citizens over the illegal aliens. So I think that's a problem here. You know, only for the vote that they are allowing everybody in here.
Thanks for the call, Maureen. Matt, Southside.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Real quick, what I wanted to ask is, just like they always say, you can't shout fire in a building. I wonder why these politicians, I mean, I get free speech, but why can they keep calling Trump and all his supporters Hitler and Nazi without there being some support? I mean, some facts to back that up. I mean, that's getting just as many people killed as shouting fire inside a building.
Well, yeah, it certainly creates a coarse environment, but you're allowed to call people names. You're allowed to say things about people that are inaccurate, so as long as they don't, cross the line into libelous or defamatory, particularly public figures, as you know. And, thinking about that, so how do you draw that line? What name are you allowed to call a politician and what name are you not? Who decides? We have to hold people responsible for their behavior. And I understand the rhetorical choices are part of their behavior, but you hold people responsible for their rhetorical choices at the ballot box. You hold people responsible for their behavior in civil and criminal courts. Chris in Hanover Park.
Hey, Dan, I was just wondering, I've been working in Chicago for my whole life, and it's one of those things where I love my Hispanic people and my friends, family, but when they say, oh, he's been here for decades, my first question is, you've been here for 20, 25 years. Have you even applied for citizenship? Have you even made an effort to not be illegal? You see what the country has to offer. And if you're not getting in line to be legal, that's on you, buddy. Sorry. But,
yeah,
I love them to death, but at the same time, you got to do it legally. That's it.
Thanks for the call, Chris. Yeah, all that time to go back to Mexico and follow the process that a lot of other Mexican nationals are following, to be sure, to emigrate to this country legally. But for some reason, you're special. You don't have to follow the rules. That's what we're supposed to believe. The people that break the law are special. The people that follow the law and exercise patience, there's no consideration for them. We have no consideration for the people who wait in line. We just have consideration for the people who line jump. How does that make sense? It doesn't. But there are other motivations here, of course. Maureen from the South Side mentioned one of them.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Crosscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Crosscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Crosscom.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Crosscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Crosscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
The summer heat in Chicagoland is no joke. And if your old air conditioner is making funny noises, you may already know it's time for a new unit.
Look, your air conditioner, it's a disaster. People are telling me it's the worst ever.
Don't sweat it, literally. When it comes to cooling your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Rebates are still available. Financing is flexible. And at Air Right, installations are smooth and professional with no surprises.
It's beautiful. Some people say it's the coolest air anyone's ever felt. I don't know. That's just what they're saying. It's doing an incredible job. Really tremendous.
Plus, tell them AM 560 sent you, and Air Right will give you $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling, doing it right since 1959.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 6:36, quote-unquote cancel culture comes, well, for the left, and they're complaining about it. But also in the media for one young woman who considered Charlie Kirk a mentor. We'll have her story, 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 66 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Freddie Hammer. Sunny today with a high of 78. There was a deadly shooting in Chicago's Uptown overnight. 17-year-old Khalif Norwood was gunned down near Argyle Street just after midnight. Police say a group of men approached before one opened fire. Norwood was rushed to Illinois Masonic Hospital where he died. No suspects are in custody as detectives investigate. An ICE agent injured in Franklin Park after being dragged by a car has been released from the hospital. The driver, identified as Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, was shot and killed during the encounter. Officials say he tried to flee during an attempted arrest. A full investigation is underway. And Chicago's CTA is installing free Naxalone vending machines at 5 rail stations. The opioid reversal drug will be available anonymously and at no cost, aiming to save lives and reduce overdose deaths across the city. And a strike was avoided in Romeoville, where Valley View teachers reached a tentative deal with District 365U. According to CBS Chicago, the agreement comes amid disputes over pay and school start times. News is a service of the AM 560 Advantage. Membership has its privileges, including early access to event tickets, exclusive contest opportunities, and special members-only content. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Mike Gallagher points out the ultimate troll.
The behavior of Gavin Newsom is so wild, where he's got this shtick down now where he's trying to mimic Trump. And J.D. Vance was asked about it and said, I love his line. He's going to make him crazy. You talk about a real troll. Here's trolling. You can't mimic the king.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9, right before Charlie Kirk at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, Chicagoland, your trusted friend Jeff here from JeffBuysYourHouse.com. Over the past few months, I've shared how our veteran-led team serves Chicagoland homeowners. Today, I want to share with you what your neighbors are saying about working with us. Like Mary in Downers Grove, who wrote, they listened to my concerns about moving from my home of 30 years and created a timeline that worked for me. Or Tom and Carol Stream, who said, their team helped me sort through 40 years of memories with respect and patience. This is why hundreds of your neighbors have given us a 5-star Google review and an A+ rating with the BBB. We don't just buy houses. We help people through life's transitions with understanding and care. No repairs needed, no cleanout required, and always on your timeline. Ready to work with the home buying team your neighbors trust? Sell your house to the trusted source by calling us at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or JeffBuysYourHouse.com.
I think it's coming from over here.
No, I think I hear it over there.
Hold on. Here it is.
That's the Perry Sleeper, one of Penny Mustard's most popular sleeper sofas.
Yeah, and I think I know who's sleeping on it. Come on, Ben. Wake up.
Huh? What month is it?
You mean, what time is it?
No, what month? I'm hibernating.
You can't hibernate.
Well, I couldn't until I found the Perry Sleeper. Sure, it's classy and comfy as a sofa, but this pull-out sleeper is unbelievable.
5 extra inches of mattress.
And no painful bar in the middle of my back.
It just might be the perfect sleeper sofa.
Ugh, I'm going back to sleep. I set an alarm.
For what time?
April.
The Perry Sleeper, American-made with your choice of fabric or leather, and no metal bar digging into your back. Starting at $44.99 at Penny Mustard.
7 Chicagoland showrooms.
PennyMustard.com.
Better versions of what people want.
Penny Mustard Furnishings.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
Protect your liver and give it the support it deserves with Active Liver from New Nordic. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or at newnordicusa.com.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic, a service of Straight Talk Wireless. 16 minutes, Edens inbound, Lake Cook to Montrose. A 14-minute ride on the outbound Edens, Montrose to Lake Cook. On the Kennedy inbound, Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, a 15-minute ride, and a 10-minute ride on the Kennedy outbound from the Byrne Interchange to Montrose. Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 23 minutes, and it'll take you 16 minutes on the flip side. Stevenson inbound from 355 to Lakeshore Drive, 33 minutes. No delays on the Stevenson outbound, Lakeshore Drive to 355. It'll take you 23 minutes. Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Byrne Interchange, 16 minutes. Don't let data limits hold you back from being the GIF master in the family group chat. Switch to Straight Talk Wireless and get real unlimited data on a reliable 5G network. Straight Talk, available at straighttalk.com or Walmart. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now here's the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be very warm with plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 61. Tomorrow expect mostly sunny skies and continued warmth with a high of 84. Thursday will feature sun shining through high clouds, remaining very warm with a high of 87. Friday will be mostly cloudy but still warm with a high of 83. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. I'm hearing a lot of chatter on the left, a lot of belly aching about cancel culture, claims of hypocrisy by the right. We decried cancel culture at its peak during the Biden years, and now you have people being separated from their jobs for posting wildly vile and ignorant things about Charlie Kirk's assassination. And that's not fair, First Amendment, all that. Well, the First Amendment, your First Amendment freedoms are not consequence-free. You know, the exercise of them are not consequence-free. I don't know who gave you that idea. The question is exactly the facts in each particular case. But oh, by the way, you know, the left still controls all these institutions, all the cultural and civic mediating institutions in society. And certainly that includes the legacy media. And therefore, cancel culture is alive and well within those institutions run by those actually who lean towards totalitarianism. Certainly the compulsory unification of opinion, which is pretty good working approximation for totalitarianism. Benny Ray Harmony was a reporter for WICS in Springfield, Illinois. But she got suspended. And after she got suspended, she decided to resign. Here's what she got suspended for.
Much for tuning into Marketplace today. So I want to talk about something for a minute, and it is heavy, so please bear with me. I want you to know that it's okay if you feel sadness. It's okay if you're grieving. 2 days ago, I lost a mentor, my first boss, the first person who made me believe in myself, that encouraged me to chase this dream that you're watching right now. Charlie Kirk. There's a lot going on in our world right now, in our country, but I want to say one thing. Lean on your neighbors. Speak up for what you believe in. I don't care what it is. I want to share with you one of my favorite sayings that Charlie would always tell us at the office. He would yell it from the mountaintops, so please listen. When conversations stop happening, when individuals become wordless, that's when violence begins. So, if you do one thing today, make it be with passion, with conviction. Stand up for your friends, stand up for your beliefs, and speak loudly, even if your voice shakes. Your words have meaning, your values have purpose. Never forget that. Thank you, CK. You changed my life.
WICS is the ABC affiliate in Springfield, Illinois. Hey, that's where our state capital is. She writes on X, effective immediately, I've resigned from WICS after being suspended for airing a nonpartisan tribute to Charlie Kirk this past Friday. Many in the mainstream media have been fired or punished for mocking his assassination. I believe I'm the first to be targeted for honoring him on air. My resignation is guided by values that are essential to who I am, which I refuse to set aside in order to keep a job. I chose my faith and love of country and always will. Thank you, Springfield, my home, my community, my people. God bless Charlie Kirk and his beautiful family, and God bless these United States of America. Benny Ray Harmony. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. I am sure former CNN standout Don Lemon will be rallying to the defense of Benny Ray. You know how I know? Because he was on his podcast. Everybody's got one, don't you know? Decrying this cancel culture and wagging his finger in the direction of conservatives who aren't rallying to the defense of people celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination.
We live in an America of cancel culture, and it is the cancel culture on the right now that is leading the charge. And the hypocrisy, I've been writing something about this, the hypocrisy on the right about free speech is, I mean, it's off the charts. Because think about it. If you actually believed in what Charlie Kirk said he believed in, didn't quite practice all the time, is free speech, then why are you out to cancel people who are using their First Amendment right of free speech to tell you how they feel about Charlie Kirk by using his own words? It doesn't make sense because Charlie Kirk didn't make sense, and so the response is irrational. So they're trying to, all these people are Nancy Mace and Megyn Kelly and all these people, they can't figure out how they want to respond. Is he a crazy, loony left liberal? Is he some sort of incel? Is he a furry? Is he whatever? Like they're spinning, trying to, how do we make this make sense? You can't, because it doesn't make sense. Because this is a myth. You're trying to build a myth on a myth. The things that came out of Charlie Kirk's mouth were much of it was hurtful, discriminatory, ignorant, and I'll stop there, to say the least.
Oh, don't stop now. You're on such a roll, Don. I mean, I don't know. The logical thread was hard to discern there. He started off on cancel culture, then I guess it was the characterization of the assassin, then it was back to something else. Whew. Dizzying intellect, Don Lemon, and he's a good representative of what we're being treated to. The whole cancel culture thing is fairly straightforward. I don't think there's any hypocrisy here, because as conservatives, we definitely believe in free speech, our First Amendment rights, restraints on government. We also believe in private property. So your relationship between your employer, So the employee-employee relationship, well, that's a matter, in talking private sector, of course, that's a matter between employer and employee. If an employer decides that he doesn't want to employ somebody who demonstrates, we were talking about a bit yesterday, emotional instability, irrational hatreds, rank ignorance, that's not good for the workplace, well then, that's up to the employer. Isn't it? That's what free enterprise is about. Private contractual relationships. Private property. So there's nothing hypocritical about that. And with respect to cancel culture, when it's targeted, when it's the right, as those being targeted, conservatives, which is normally the case since the left controls all these institutions, here again we have this issue of proportionality. Trying to present false equivalences, which the left is always doing to hide their general barbarism. In many instances of cancel culture, it wasn't that an employer didn't have the right to do it. It's just whether or not the employer in question was doing it out of some basis in principle or actually a violation of that person or that organization's stated principles. Was doing it from a place of righteousness or a place of fear. That was the conversation. Now, in academia, government, it's a little bit of a different story, isn't it? But all of this caterwauling about cancel culture coming from the left all of a sudden for people who are choosing to make garish spectacles of themselves, I have very little sympathy. Particularly as these same people are intentionally saying things. Well, what's somebody's intent? They know or should know what they're saying is false. And let me give you another example from one of these institutions controlled by the left. Oh, we're still in the media. Formerly of ESPN, too hot for ESPN even. Jameel Hill, but not for Steve Jobs' widow, who owns the Atlantic. Jameel Hill.
The reason he was labeled a white supremacist is because he believed in the superiority of white people, which is why he said that he would be concerned if he saw a black pilot, which is why he said that he questioned the brain processing of brilliant minds such as Joy Ann Reid and Ketanji Brown Jackson, because he ultimately believed in the superiority of white people. So I don't think I'm being insensitive by bringing that up. And the only reason I feel like I even need to bring that up is because of the counter narrative that is establishing itself. And that's the problem with history and the problem with receipts is that you can't erase the receipts. You can't, I learned this a long time ago, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before, is that people don't remember what you do, although a lot of times they do, but more importantly, they remember how you made them feel. And Charlie Kirk, with his words and with his influence, he made a lot of people who were not straight white Christian men feel less than, feel less than human, feel less than qualified, feel a lot of less thans. That's how he made them feel, and that was his entire purpose.
Well, just like Pritzker saying, the purpose of ICE is terror and cruelty. That's the point. The pilot comment that has been making the rounds was obviously a indictment of DEI when information came out that there was a purposeful effort among major carriers to not hire white pilots. And so that was the point. The point is when you start making decisions based on race as opposed to ability, capacity, work product, then you're in the case of airlines, you're potentially endangering the safety of your customers, willing to make things a little bit less safe to appease an ideological mob. It's a sort of bad practice. That's what he was saying. I mean, to say that Charlie, as Jamil Hill just said, that he was white supremacist, he believed that blacks were inferior to white, is the same thing as Stephen King saying that he believed that gays should be stoned. I mean, it's just completely fictional, completely made up. And you say things like that, and then you wonder why there's a backlash. Jamil Hill on differences of opinion continues. I mean, this is sort of center cut for where the left is. The things that they will say, the straw man that they will erect to justify their noxious ideology, their destructive identitarianism.
I'm tired of white supremacist beliefs being considered a difference of opinion. I'm really sick of that. You know what's a difference of opinion? Is if you like DC and I like Marvel. That's a difference of opinion. If you say Drake is the greatest rapper of all time and I think it's Jay-Z, that's a difference of opinion. What's not considered a difference of opinion? If you think black people are inherently inferior to white people, and I think the opposite, that is not a difference of opinion. That is you being a racist.
A statement Charlie Kirk and no one else made. Arguing into the abyss, Jamil Hill. That's what they do. But it gets worse, too. I know there was so much discussion about this guy, the assassin I'm talking about, being radicalized online. I still watching the downplaying of the trans relationship, which I think is central. We'll see. This guy, Hassan Piker, I've just recently become aware of him. Wow. This guy, I guess, has a 2.5 million person following online. One of the leading left commentators in terms of audience.
I'm sick and tired of it. Left wingers, liberals, you need to be f***ing showing your opponent's guts on there, okay? You need to be gutting them. You need to be shanking these and letting their intestines just ride on stage.
I guess Hassan Piker's uncle is Cenk Uygur from Young Turks. I think he's the number one broadcaster on Twitch, and the founder of Twitch really enjoys his program.
Murder those in the street. Let the streets soak in their red capitalist bloods, dude. If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would kill Rick Scott. Kill Rick Scott.
Hassan Piker on 9/11 and Dan Crenshaw from 2019. You know, Dan Crenshaw, who lost an eye in service to our country.
This guy has the understanding of foreign policy of like a 12-year-old. What the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with this dude? Didn't he go to war and like literally lose his eye because some mujahideen, a brave fucking soldier, fucked his eye hole with their Isn't that how he lost his fucking dumbass eye? Because he got his fucking eye hole fucked? America deserved 9/11, dude. F it. I'm saying it.
So those are the leading lights of the left, both in their own words, Jamil Hill, Don Lemon, Hassan Piker, as well as references too. How dare you criticize the intellectual prowess of a Joy Reid or a Ketanji Brown Jackson? Yeah, right. To criticize Joy Reid or Ketanji Brown Jackson is to be a racist, surely. What is a woman? I have no idea. I'm a DEI hire, Joy Reid in her own words.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker and my new co-host,
Amy Jacobson.
On AM 560. We wanted you to know that we have a special show every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. here on AM 560, The Answer. It is a Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker and
Amy Jacobson.
It's every Sunday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. 2-hour show, 2-hour radio extravaganza. Amy, we're going to tantalize the listening public and the listening private with all kinds of retirement planning information. So tune in at AM 560 Sunday mornings at 7 a.m.
AM 560, The Answer.
That sound means it's time for In-Depth History with Frank, the history teacher from Arlington Heights, because there's nothing new in this world, just the history you don't know, and Frank does. Frank, take it away.
Good morning. Antonio Gramsci was an Italian communist jailed by Mussolini in the 1920s. It was then that he wrote his prison notebooks and became the father of cultural Marxism, arguing that controlling major institutions like the press, churches, schools, and universities would better lead to the spread and eventual dominance of Marxist ideology in the West. Often considered the last classical philosopher, Boethius was born in the year 480 AD and was imprisoned by Theodoric the Goth in 523. Now, he was a bit more constructive than Gramsci, and through his major work, The Consolation of Philosophy, he developed what became the liberal arts: grammar, logic, and rhetoric, or the trivium, and then arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, or the quadrivium. He also weaved Christian theology into Plato and Aristotle, and posited that happiness is found through virtue, learning, and aligning with the good, rather than having worldly pursuits. 1,000 years later, at another inflection point in history, the Reformation, St. Ignatius Loyola formed the Jesuit order, which, along with missionary work, built some of the most prestigious universities, extending and expanding upon Boethius's model across the globe. It was the postmodern Gramscian degradation of this model in virtually all of our universities, public and private, that led Charlie Kirk towards his own mission, which will now transcend his temporal being. The scariest scene in The Exorcist is when Father Karras has a dream after the death of his mother, and in it she is in a state of distress, coming up and then down the subway stairs. One also sees the demon's face flash on screen. This dream is often interpreted that he is losing his faith before he heads into battle with the supernatural. Now, Father Karras was exceptionally educated and had a very strong faith, yet even he had existential anguish. Our universities today, though, have decayed beyond recognition, and our youth are now philosophically defenseless as a result. Rest in peace, Charlie.
What do you think the reaction is, really? Do you think that there's this, I hate to use the term radicalization, but that there's a normie engagement, mentioned it earlier in the program, this normie engagement that's happening and will sustain?
No, I don't. I don't see that happening until we have, 50% of the people in this country reliant upon government spending. I just don't see it. Everybody's like, you said in the earlier part of the show, that people are just too comfortable with their entertainments and so forth. And until that changes, no, I don't see it. I really don't. Is J.B. Pritzker going to be defeated for governor? He's vulnerable, but I don't think so. Not in this state. Like you said, you think Hinsdale and some of the other places that you mentioned, do you think they're going to change? I don't see it.
Frank in Arlington Heights, thank you as always. We'll post his commentary. I'll post that on X. Coming up, 7:07, Alan Viard from American Enterprise Institute, new study about the impact of immigration. It is now 7 a.m. on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
He reportedly confessed. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's a big story before the suspected Charlie Kirk assassin, Tyler Robinson, goes to court today to face murder and other charges.
In messages obtained by the Washington Post from an online group chat, the suspect told a group of about 30 people, "Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've all been amazing." We know the suspected killer also told at least a couple of people about his plans prior to the shooting.
Fox's Garrett Tenney at the Utah County Jail. Attorney General Pam Bondi just posted on X, hate speech that crosses the line into threats of violence is not protected by the First Amendment. Adding, for far too long, the radical left has normalized threats and cheered political violence. That era is over, and some could face a crackdown.
Antifa isn't any one group. It's an umbrella term for supporters of a far-left movement opposed to what they see as far-right fascism. President Trump's asked by a reporter, does Charlie Kirk's assassination create an opportunity to label it as a domestic terrorist organization?
I would do that 100%, and others also, by the way, but Antifa is terrible.
And he says again, the Justice Department could bring racketeering charges against those groups' financial supporters.
Fox's Chris Foster. The president said that while announcing a new federal crackdown on crime in another city, like what he did in Washington, sending National Guard troops and federal agents to Memphis, Tennessee, supported by the Republican governor. He wants to go to Chicago next, but the Democratic Illinois governor doesn't want that.
Chicago's a great city, and we're going to make it great again very soon, and I think we can do that despite the tremendous size.
Well, the president also announced the military blew up a second boat in 2 weeks off the coast of Venezuela, suspected of transporting illegal drugs to the U.S. 3 people were killed. And later this hour, President Trump will leave the White House and head to London for a second state visit after one in his first term, and include meetings with King Charles and the British Prime Minister. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 66 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Freddie Hammer. Sunny today with a high of 78. There was a smash and grab burglary that turned into a police chase in Oak Park early Monday. According to ABC7, around 2:30 a.m., 5 suspects rammed a pawn shop on North Avenue, then fled in a stolen red sedan. That getaway ended in Maywood with a crash, and 3 suspects were arrested. However, 2 remain at large, and police are investigating. Despite fears tied to Chicago's Operation Midway Blitz, the El Grito Festival went on in Pilsen Monday night, celebrating Mexico's Independence Day. According to CBS Chicago, attendance was lower than expected, with some staying home over deportation concerns. Organizers relocated the event 3 times for safety and handed out Know Your Rights flyers. Still, hundreds gathered outside St. Paul Catholic Church to honor tradition through music, food, and pride. No federal agents were seen at the event. A strike was narrowly avoided in Romeoville, where Valley View teachers reached a tentative deal with District 365U after months of negotiations. According to CBS Chicago, the agreement comes amid disputes over pay and school start times. Meanwhile, teachers in District 146, serving Tinley Park, Oak Forest, and Orland Park, could walk out next Monday as talks over pay and retirement benefits remain stalled. Chicago marked a milestone for Pope Leo XIV's 70th birthday with a tribute at his birthplace, Insight Hospital, formerly Mercy Hospital. According to CBS Chicago, a plaque now honors the first American pope, born there 7 decades ago. Hospital staff and community members gathered Monday to celebrate the legacy and mission of serving the vulnerable. And Governor J.B. Pritzker signed an executive order to protect vaccine access in Illinois. It covers COVID-19, flu, RSV, and more, ensuring pharmacies and clinics can administer vaccines despite federal rollbacks. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com, making smiles great again. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt warns that China is flexing.
Xi Jinping has capped a week of frenetic diplomacy by presiding over one of China's biggest military parades, projecting his nation's growing power in a show of solidarity with fellow strongman Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. Everyone's got to pay attention to what China is doing and what China is saying. And it's very ominous.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
So how long were you told you'd be on that medication you're taking? That's what I thought. Question, do you believe it's possible for you to be set free of the medication you're currently on? Or will you be stuck taking it forever? Not to mention all of the side effects. Imagine what it would feel like to be drug-free. You know, the United States makes up less than 5% of the world's population, yet we use over 85% of the world's supply of medication. That's 95% of the world using 15% of the leftover medications, with over 53 other countries living longer than we do here in the United States today. So instead, let's help your body regain its health naturally. Begin your adventure in health with us today by calling our HealthQuest radio hotline and reserve your very own new patient strategy consultation with me. Call 800-794-1855. That's 800-794-1855. Oh, and listen to Health Quest Radio with me, Dr. David Kolbaba, every Saturday morning at 11.
Are you living with dry AMD? If so, you could be on the road to geographic atrophy, or GA, a condition that leads to retinal cell death and permanent vision loss. But with Izervay, you can
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay slows GA progression by targeting a key source of retinal cell death, which may help preserve your vision longer. Izervay, or Avastin Captid Pagel, is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
Taking a look at your drive, the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic, a service of Air Right Heating and Cooling. 22 minutes, Edens inbound, Lake Cook to Montrose. Outbound, Edens, Montrose to Lake Cook, you're looking at 14 minutes. Kennedy inbound, Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, a 22-minute ride. On the Kennedy outbound from the Byrne Interchange to Montrose, 15 minutes. Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 38 minutes. Eisenhower outbound from the Old Post Office to Wolf, 23 minutes. Stevenson inbound, 355 to Lakeshore Drive, 47 minutes. A 29-minute travel time on the Stevenson outbound from Lakeshore Drive to 355. Offering AM 560 listeners $56 off any service, including inspections. Don't wait for a heat wave for that old air conditioner to break down. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now here's the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be very warm with plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 61. Tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies and continued warmth with a high of 84. Thursday will feature sun shining through high clouds, remaining very warm with a high of 87. Friday will be mostly cloudy, but still warm with a high of 83. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. A new study from the American Enterprise Institute on the impact of immigration. A lot of detail here. The net of the study argues that the net of immigration, even low-skilled immigration, is positive. To plumb the depths of the methodology and the results here, pleased to be joined by Alan Viard, Senior Fellow Emeritus at the American Enterprise Institute. Alan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Glad to be here.
I have a question for you at the outset here. Just reading through the report that you guys produced. When where you document things like the percentage of U.S.-born individuals who are employed versus the percentage of foreign-born, both all as well as recent arrivals. Are you distinguishing between legal and illegal?
So those numbers do not.
Yeah.
So some of the data sets, are not able to make that distinction, or they don't make that distinction, which means that we, when using the data sets, are unable to draw that distinction.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that anything untoward about that. Just using the data available, but I just think that has to lead to an asterisk with respect to some of this data, because you have tens of millions of people, ostensibly, we don't know really, but presumably in this country illegally. And if you're not sort of including their impact as compared to U.S. citizens, as compared to people here illegally who are recent arrivals,
without legal authorization, but have been granted authorization to stay, say, for example, pending an asylum claim. There's other relevant distinctions, too, such as their age and their education and so forth. But to focus on what you've just highlighted, legally present versus illegally present, from a fiscal perspective, and again, that's the focus of the study, the tax and budget. From a fiscal perspective, the immigrants who are here illegally are actually better for the government treasury. They do pay a significant amount of taxes. There's some of them who are working off the books, and so they don't pay income taxes or payroll taxes, but many of them are on the books. They, in many cases, are using a fake or stolen Social Security number, but they are, as a result, paying income taxes and payroll taxes. Of course, all of them will pay sales taxes and excise taxes, and yet they receive very limited government benefits. At the federal level, really almost nothing. At the state and local level, they receive public schooling. I mean, that's another distinction we can get into if you want, is the impact of the federal level versus the impact of the state and local level, because those are significantly different from each other.
Well, right. I mean, not just schooling, but I mean, the big ticket item, even bigger than schooling, is Medicaid coverage. I mean, I know in Illinois that the number in the last fiscal year was in the neighborhood of $1.5 billion. Well,
immigrants who are illegally are ineligible for Medicaid except for emergency care if the state chooses to cover them. So, I don't know how that really stacks up as being the biggest item in view of that. Obviously, they were fully eligible for Medicaid. Yeah, that'd be a really big deal because Medicaid is a huge item in state budgets. But there is that restriction.
Well, but that's, and part of the federal suits in the direction of sanctuary states is over this very issue, since it's a federal state program. But I mean, what the strictures of the program say versus how it's actually implemented in a sanctuary state like Illinois, I'm pretty confident are two different things.
Well, I guess you'd have to look at the details in each state, but frankly, I think that if someone was here illegally, if anything, they'd be reluctant to step forward even to claim the narrow category of benefits that they are entitled to, given that would expose them to the federal government.
Just on the one more on this, the recent arrivals,
Sure.
You say 64% of recent arrivals are employed, but again, just for emphasis, we don't have any idea what the distribution is in that category of recent arrivals here legally versus recent arrivals here not legally.
Well, we don't show that in the table. I mean, we do have some sense of it, and a lot of the recent arrivals are in what I earlier called the semi-legal status. That is to say, they entered the country without legal authorization, but then have been granted some type of authorization to remain temporarily, maybe until their asylum claims are resolved, for example.
Well, do you have any idea then of that 64% of recent arrivals who are employed? Like, what percentage of that are people who are here illegally and have not been granted any work authorization or temporary legal status?
No, I don't have that specific number. But in general, people who come here illegally, the large majority of them come here to work.
I agree.
Because that's really the only way they're going to be able to have an income here. And that obviously there's a whole lot of issues involved with respect to people being here illegally. I think everyone would agree that it's not an ideal situation to, on the one hand, have a set of laws that says, such and such group of people are allowed to enter, and then to have an actual situation where other people are here in this, undesirable status. But, the people who are illegally, they generally do come here to work. Now, they're often, low skilled. They're working at low skilled jobs.
I want to get to low skilled versus high skilled and the relative impacts of that in just a second. But did you factor in and try to assign a dollar amount to the cost of crime?
No, that we did not include that.
Okay. So let's talk a high skilled versus low skilled, sort of the H-1Bs versus the lower skilled. So how does that work out in terms of cost benefit?
So the fiscal impact is dramatically different depending upon the skill level, and that's usually measured, by the educational status. But there's other ways you could look at it as well. And so one of the figures in our report, and it's like not our original research, but it was what's considered sort of the gold standard study of this topic by the National Academy of Sciences, and done back around 2012. And it shows the impact of a new immigrant over the next 75 years. And not only includes the immigrant, but also includes the immigrant's descendants through that 75-year period, because, of course, if the immigrant wasn't here, the descendants wouldn't be here as well. And looks out 75 years, takes a present discounted value. And so if you look at an immigrant who has a graduate degree, their fiscal impact was positive to the tune of almost $800,000 over that 75-year horizon. But if you look at someone who has less than a high school education, their fiscal impact over that 75 years was negative to the tune of about $200,000. So, and then for intermediate categories, of course, you get intermediate results if it's someone who has a high school degree, some college bachelor's degree, and so on. But the impact is quite dramatic, and of course, that's just common sense. I mean, obviously, someone who comes here with high skills who can work a high-paid job, they're going to be paying in a lot of taxes and probably not drawing much in the way of government benefits.
And how does that contrast with U.S. citizens? Similar education and so forth.
I'm glad you asked that, because that is actually a really interesting point. And so if you hold this education level constant, native-born citizens are actually worse from a fiscal perspective than the immigrants. And again, that's because of the restrictions on benefit eligibility. Even if you come here with a green card, right, you've been allowed into this country legally to stay here forever with a pathway to citizenship, should you wish it, you're still ineligible for a range of government benefits during your first 5 years here. And it varies depending on the program exactly what the rules are, but you don't have the same benefit eligibility as a citizen does. If and when you become a citizen, then you'll get that eligibility, but you can't do that right away. And so, for example, take the people who have less than high school education. If we admit an immigrant into this country who has less than a high school education, there is this $200,000 negative impact. But if you have a child born here who ends up getting less than high school education, their fiscal impact is actually negative to the tune of $400,000. Again, 75-year horizon, including the descendants. So, in that sense, the immigrants are better for the federal and the state and local treasuries just because we restrict some of their benefit eligibility. It does make a big difference in each case what their education level is.
Yeah. I mean, that shouldn't come as much of a surprise, I suppose.
You've got to figure that's true. Now, there are various indirect effects that, most studies don't include and that are really hard to include to quantify them exactly. And in general, those indirect effects actually make the fiscal picture more favorable for immigrants and actually for native-born as well. But, these are things like capital changes in capital tax revenues and, in the case of high-skilled workers, possible changes in productivity growth. And so in that sense, all these impacts may be more favorable, and also the fiscal gap. But, let's go to whatever you're interested in here rather than me.
No. I just in terms of did you look at this from in a geographical perspective in terms of immigrants from South and Central and South America or the Western Hemisphere versus the Eastern Hemisphere, Central South America versus Africa versus Europe versus Asia? Did you look at that? And if you did look at that, were there any noticeable distinctions?
The studies that are out there, and again, our report is really a summary of the existing studies, generally don't break it down by the geographical region of origin. My own guess would be that wouldn't have much of an independent impact once you control for education levels and some of the other variables like age and and so forth. But of course, there easily could be a difference in the educational backgrounds of immigrants from different parts of the world. And then that would, like we just discussed.
So, I mean, in part, I suppose what this fiscal picture suggests is that, number one, legal immigration is something we need to power this $25 trillion economy. Number two is we may need to even have legal immigration that includes some sort of temporary worker program, which we've had in this country's history in the past. And these are some of the things in terms of thinking about policy changes or policy implications that we should be discussing.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Obviously, the fiscal impact is only one factor to be taken into account in the immigration policy. But I think that people who do say, "Oh, we've got to block immigrants because they're depleting the government treasury, they're drawing all these benefits and not paying taxes," like that is not a good reason to object to wide categories of immigrants. Again, it has a little bit of validity with respect to the immigrants with lower education. Although once you take the indirect effects into account, I mean, that's not a very strong case either. But of course, there's other factors to consider.
Yeah, I mean, that we make distinctions between U.S. citizens and people here illegally or non-U.S. citizens. I mean, that's or just a conversation about the welfare state in general, including for benefits that are given to U.S. citizens, too, because some of the data suggests that, there is, as you say, some incentive that people are coming to this country. Positive incentive that people are motivating people to come to this country, and that's because they want to work and be independent. And some of the data sort of bears that out. They don't feel like maybe they have the same social safety net as some American citizens do, and so they're a little bit more animated.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Alan Viard is a senior fellow emeritus at the American Enterprise Institute. The report that AEI just released, The Fiscal Impact of Immigration, an update. Check that out. Post that for your consumption as well. Alan, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm alpine skier Michaela Schifrin. I've won the most World Cup ski races in history. But what does success mean to me? Success means discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us, and it's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. If you're looking for success, surround yourself with the people who will get you there. If you're an advisor or investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
Let me tell you about a proud new sponsor of Chicago's Morning Answer, Access One IT Services and Support. Chicago business owners, listen up. Your phone, internet, and IT should work well 24/7. When it doesn't, who are you calling? An overseas help desk? Don't do that. If you want clear, reliable, local experts, consider Chicago's best, Access One. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for more than 30 years from their headquarters in the West Loop. Whether it's voice over IP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One has you covered. Access One is Chicago-owned, Chicago-run, and serves thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore and everywhere in between. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction, trusted by law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers, businesses across the range of sectors. If you're in business, make sure your IT works well every day. Start a conversation about your business needs today by calling Access One at 1-800-804-8333 or visit them online at accessoneinc.com. That's Access One, spelled out O-N-E, accessoneinc.com. And when you go to that site or give them a call, tell them AM560 sent you.
Does your garage floor look lousy with stained or cracked concrete, or even worse, bad epoxy or paint? Call Comer and Cross Concrete Floors now. During their end-of-the-year sale at 1-800-NEW-FLOOR right now, you'll get the best price of the year guaranteed, starting with $750 off. At Comer and Cross Garage Floor, they are the gold standard, guaranteed to never chip, crack, or show tire lift like epoxy or bad paint. And they'll make it so easy, they're in and out in one day. They'll fix your cracks, the pits, and they fix them perfectly the first time. They're certified, they're uniformed, they're employees. They'll even take the stuff out of your garage for you. Whether you're in Chicago, Milwaukee, or Indiana, now is the time to call them for the best price of the year, guaranteed, starting with $750 off right now during their end-of-the-year garage sale. Here's the number. It's easy. 1-800-NEW-FLOOR. That's 1-800-NEW-FLOOR, or go to COMERcross.com.
Welcome back to Ask Hasselus. I'm Weston. What's your question?
You know when that big online store has special days with ridiculously low prices?
Yeah.
Why doesn't Hasselus Mattress do that?
We do.
You do? When?
Every day.
Okay, good one. But really, when are the big discounts?
Like I said, every day. You know our showrooms are employee-free.
So I can give your mattresses a try.
With no pushy sales guy.
Yeah, I know.
Well, that allows us to sell Sealy Posturepedic, Beauty Rest, and more for way less.
Give me numbers.
Our 35 beds from the top 5 brands start at $393. Free next day delivery, too.
And you do this every day?
Yeah. Plus, through Monday, get a free box spring with every Sealy Posturepedic, Beauty Rest, and more, or take an equal amount off an adjustable base.
Wow.
So I guess you could say now is a prime time to buy.
I see what you did there.
Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you or shop online at Hasselus.com.
Wow. At the time of this being written, both gold and silver are up some 40%. That's 40% in just 1 year. In fact, this past year, gold has broken all-time historic records by hundreds of dollars an ounce. And unlike all other financial instruments used today, that historic record goes back thousands of years. In times like these, prices have never been better on most collector and gold coins. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is trying to keep up with demand. So they're paying the most ever on not only most gold coins and bars, but also those old coin and paper money collections. They're especially looking for the scarcer dates and higher grade coins. Take advantage of the record high market price and our huge demand now, whether you're buying or selling, or just want to find out their worth. Fox Valley Coins is the place to go. Fox Valley Coins is on Route 59, just 1 light north of I-88 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. Family owned integrity since 1981.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
The summer heat in Chicagoland is no joke. And if your old air conditioner is making funny noises, you may already know it's time for a new unit.
Look, your air conditioner, it's a disaster. People are telling me it's the worst ever.
Don't sweat it, literally. When it comes to cooling your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Rebates are still available, financing is flexible, and at Air Right installations are smooth and professional with no surprises.
It's beautiful. Some people say it's the coolest air anyone's ever felt. I don't know. That's just what they're saying. It's doing an incredible job. Really tremendous.
Plus, tell them AM 560 sent you, and Air Right will give you $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
AM 560, The Answer.
A lot of text messages in response to our conversation with Alan Viard from American Enterprise Institute. Another bogus report that the colleges will use to justify illegal immigration. The health benefits for immigrants program that Illinois has specifically states legal status is not taken into consideration. Guy is so wrong. I work in healthcare. They are on Medicaid. I understand. And I understand that Illinois doesn't audit Medicaid rolls, which is why I made the point of Illinois. He's looking at this nationally. And not every state operates like Illinois. That's just in. Sanctuary states operate differently than, say, Texas and Florida when it comes to these sorts of issues. So, look, I pointed out that the lack of distinction with respect to recent arrivals between illegal and legal, the lack of incorporating a cost associated with crime that has been imported through the small percentage of people in this country illegally who commit crimes. Small percentage, big number, big problem. I mean, this all highlights, one, that there's only so much you can glean from the study. But number two is, because we don't have a handle on this, it's very hard to study in a way where the methodology is comprehensive. And so it really gives you a path of understanding. And he also mentioned, too, to be fair to him, there are other considerations. We're looking, they're looking at the fiscal impact with the data they have available, other considerations, what policy should be, whether or not there's a net benefit or not, whether or not we should have particular limits on illegal immigration, what we should do about people in this country illegally who broke the law. I mean, those are other considerations not contemplated by the report. So you have to also assess the report in terms of what it is trying to elucidate, not what it is not addressing. Okay. Coming up at 7:37, our friend Ted Dowski, all grown up and running for governor. Ted Dowski, all things Illinois policy and now politics related at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 67 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Freddie Hammer. Sunny today with a high of 78. A smash-and-grab burglary turned police chase in Oak Park happened early Monday. ABC 7 says 5 suspects rammed a pawn shop on North Avenue, then fled in a stolen red sedan. The chase ended in Maywood with a crash. 3 suspects were arrested and 2 remain at large. A man died after being shot inside a Southside home Monday afternoon. Fox 32 reports the shooting happened about 3:19 p.m. on South Anthony Avenue. He was taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center and later died. No arrests have been made. And Chicago's CTA is installing free Naxalone vending machines at 5 rail stations. The opioid reversal drug will be available anonymously and at no cost, aiming to save lives and reduce overdose deaths across the city. Chicago honored Pope Leo XIV's 70th birthday with a plaque at Insight Hospital, his birthplace. Staff and faith leaders gathered to celebrate the legacy of the first American pope. The hospital, once Mercy Hospital, continues its mission to serve the vulnerable. This news is a service of Quick Delivery Service. Make Quick Delivery Service your personal ground crew. Anytime, anywhere, any place. When you need to move your shipment of freight, Quick Delivery will get it there. Get a quote in advance and eliminate any surprises at quickdelivery.com.
Larry Elder thinks the media is being ridiculous.
There was a hashtag called Trump is dead, and it was trending. The same people who covered up for Biden for years are concerned that the president, who held 3 consecutive press conferences recently in one day, takes a little bit of time off, and he's not being transparent about his health.
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's Reveille. The political assassination of Charlie Kirk is a wake-up call for Americans who care about our constitutional rights and common decency. Charlie debated the nuances and impact of public policy from a constitutional and biblical perspective, because those are the bedrock foundations of America. In doing so, he challenged the leftist view of the world, and he did so on turf they felt they owned, college campuses. The left's angry, fact-free vitriol has led their followers to protest any and all conservatives everywhere. And now we have the political assassination of Charlie. A recent Rasmussen Heartland Institute poll found that 40% of likely voters aged 18 to 39 said Americans who refuse to use others' preferred pronouns should face fines and legal penalties. 59% said they would support a proposal for a new constitutional amendment that would give the United Nations authority to oversee the Supreme Court and president. Key takeaways in a recent survey of 68,000 students from 257 colleges by the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression showed 1 in 3 students believe that using violence to stop campus speech is acceptable, and over 54% of students find it acceptable to block attendance at a campus speech. These are preposterous opinions in a free society. For years, our side and the reasonable middle have refused to respond immediately and effectively to the left's rhetoric. We aren't really into confrontational politics. We have better things to do than come up with the slogan of the week and protest on street corners. Most people can avoid engaging in political debate So the left gets away with their ignorant comments, arrogant attitudes, and dismissive behavior towards conservatives who speak up. But not anymore. Speak up, or we will know no peace. I'm Jeannie Ives. Join me Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. on this station and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available online at Amazon and newnordicusa.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic a service of Lowe's, a 21-minute ride on the inbound Edens Lakehook to Montrose, the reverse trip a 19-minute ride. Kennedy inbound Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, a 28-minute ride, and a 23-minute travel time on the Kennedy outbound from the Byrne Interchange to Montrose. Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 52 minutes, 27 minutes. Eisenhower outbound from the Old Post Office to Wolf on the Stevenson inbound, 355 to Lakeshore Drive, 58 minutes, a 32-minute travel time on the Stevenson outbound from Lakeshore Drive to 355, 23 minutes. Pro saving days are back at Lowe's. My Lowe's Pro Rewards members save even more with limited time doorbuster deals. Get your choice. A DeWalt Elite Series saw blades now $9.98, valid through $9.17. Selection varies while supplies last, subject to terms and conditions. See Lowe's.com/terms and details, subject to change. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now here's the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be very warm with plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 61. Tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies and continued warmth with a high of 84. Thursday will bring sun shining through high clouds and very warm temperatures, reaching a high of 87. By Friday, it will be mostly cloudy but remaining warm with a high of 83. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. That theme music usually means it's time for our weekly conversation about all things Illinois policy related with Ted Dowski from wirepoints.org. But he's no longer at Wirepoints because Ted Dowski on Friday made this announcement.
Hello, my name is Ted Dowski, and I'm running for governor because in Illinois, we can do better. And I know we can do better because I've seen the opportunities this state can provide. My own parents immigrated to Chicago in 1960. My father escaped communist Poland, and my mother left Ecuador as a 19-year-old. They met on the L, and they began weaving their version of the American dream right here in Illinois, and they achieved it. Their sacrifices allowed me to make my way through college, earn an MBA from Wharton, and embark on a successful international career at Citibank. I gained an even deeper appreciation for America as a young banker in Mexico, where I helped that country innovate and expand its financial markets to more fully integrate into the global economy. I then moved to Eastern Europe, where for 9 years, I helped a post-Soviet Poland reform its economy, raise its standard of living, and expand opportunity. Today, Poland has become one of the world's most dynamic countries because they restored individual freedom, resurrected the private sector, and tore down the barriers to entrepreneurship. I'm proud to have played a role in Poland's transformation. It's amazing how the right policies turned what was the poorest country in Europe into an economic powerhouse. Fast forward to today. For more than 15 years, I've been championing pro-freedom, pro-growth reforms for Illinois, a state headed in the wrong direction.
And that's why he's running for governor. Ted Dowski, Republican gubernatorial candidate, joins us now. Ted, thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Dan, and thanks for having me on, and excited for the new challenge here.
And I should say, I mean, not surprisingly, I'm supporting Ted in his gubernatorial bid. So factor that in as
Thank
you
you,
see
Dan.
fit. Yes. I mean, just give us a little bit of the why, a little bit more of the why. We sort of heard in that part of your announcement video or intro video that your background, your personal story that people may not have been as familiar with, but just a general description of why you think you're the right guy for this time.
Well, I won't avoid what really has impacted me all my life, and that's my parents. My dad was such a freedom fighter, such a lover of America, and my mom too. So I was raised by people who lived in very different worlds, but they loved this country. They became citizens here, and it was the freedom and opportunity that they came for. And I've watched, people who know me have seen me work for the last 15 years. I thought, I talked about this in my announcement speech, but I thought that if I just was persuadable with the facts, with the right answers, with pointing out the failures, pointing out how other states are doing so much better than us, that I would persuade enough people to change things. But we've seen that this political process won't change anything right now. It's too corrupt. It's too fixed, as a guy famously said a few years ago.
Huh.
And so I said, no, I can't keep doing that. I know, I've been working in this space. I know the political system. I know what these people are like. I know what the fake reformers are like. And so I said, I can't stand this anymore. I'm going to get in. I got help in my speech, and somebody said, I know how the sausage is made and why it tastes so bad, and I want to change that. So, I said, I've got to put my hat in the ring and get into the fight.
And I mean, the Republican Party, too, we've talked about this many times, the sort of the void that has been left by the lack of an opposition party and, to go up against and challenge all the policies as well as pronouncements of a Pritzker and the rest of the power structure in Springfield.
Well, that's a key part. And, we know that we have to go up against Pritzker, that machine that's been there for a long time, but to do it right, we have to have a great Republican Party that's unified. And today it's anything but unified. And I think the lack of leadership is really what's torn it apart. It'd be something that I really want to offer is that leadership. We've had Republicans vote for the green energy bill, which is now we're seeing our energy bills are doubling. We've seen Republicans vote for Amendment 1, the workers' rights amendment. We've seen the vote for helping double the gas tax. And, I think a lot of Republicans are just voting their conscience, kind of doing what they needed to do to keep winning in their districts. But in the end, it's destroyed the Republican brand. So I think we need leadership so that we don't keep voting the wrong way. Republicans voted for this recent pension bill and for the mental health bill. You can't, this is the stuff that has to change. We can't fix Illinois if Republicans are complicit in that as well.
I want to also mention your running mate, because, you got to put together teams these days. You have to run with the lieutenant governor candidates, not voted separately in the primary like it used to be. And somebody I know, like you do, Dr. Carrie Mendoza, who's been on this show, talk to us about your running mate and that choice.
Yeah, so, I had to look around the state and, there's many different strategies. Everybody has different ideas. Hey, you live in Cook County, so you should choose somebody from downstate, et cetera, and everybody's got a different view on that. My key thing was to find somebody principled. I can't talk about the things I talk about, things where we have to lead and be principled, if my running mate also doesn't share the strong values of things like school choice, say no to tax hikes, all those things, and also who kind of understands the real world. And Dr. Carrie Mendoza, she's been an ER doctor for 25 years, and she's just not an ER doctor. She works in the safety net hospital, so she really dedicates herself to taking care of anybody who needs immediate help right then. And it's almost like she's ideal for Illinois, because Illinois is an emergency, and we need somebody who thinks about it that way. And she's got 3 kids. She's been a great ally for me, and we pushed for school reopenings when the schools were closed. She's pushed against all the COVID restrictions that we hated and wanted to push against, and so she's been a great partner for that. And she's principled, and I think that's starting point number one, and aligned with really trying to make this state the place it should be. She's got three boys that are all in college. She wants them to come back to Illinois and live here in Illinois. but they'll only do that if we make the state the right kind of state.
I saw out of the gate the coverage was fairly positive, except for the Chicago Tribune, typical because they hate conservatives, and mentioning Jeannie Ives and others. I think I was mentioned too. But anyway, they hate conservatives. They obviously consider you and Kerry a conservative, and also a threat because they're on the attack right out of the gate.
Well, it was predictable. I think the Chicago Tribune, guys like Rick Pearson and others, they don't want change. They want to preserve exactly what's there now. They're huge defenders of Pritzker and the status quo. Yeah, it's not surprising, but I think it's a positive thing. They're pointing out that we want change, and I mean that's what all Illinois should want. We're trapped here with a shrinking population, with the highest property taxes, with the second highest gas taxes. Our kids can't read, and that's the kind of stuff that the Chicago Tribune is defending. We're going to fight to change all that, and that's our goal. So let them hit us.
The big question for Republicans, even if they I like Ted Dowski or somebody else, but let's just say I like Ted, but I mean, can he? You know the question: can he win? How does anybody win? He has no chance. There's no chance for Republicans to win in Illinois. Pritzker's money. How do you address the viability question for you or any Republican to defeat Pritzker and his money?
Well, what's interesting, the first thing I point out is, he spent over $400 million in the last 2 cycles to get himself elected, him and others. So $400 million. He went up against a candidate that did strongly downstate but didn't do well at all in the suburban area. And yet Pritzker only got 54.9% of the vote. So it's not like Pritzker's getting 60% and 65%. You would think that all that money would buy him dominance, but it's less than 5 percentage points. So that's number one. Since that last election, we've had the immigration crisis, which has really, dampened enthusiasm for Pritzker, especially among the black population and Latinos too. You've had the Trump effect since then, where we saw blacks and Latinos go towards Trump. Trump got 2.4 million votes, which is more votes than Pritzker got. Of course, it's 2 different elections, but the point is there are many people who voted for Trump. And then you add the crime issue that's going on. Pritzker's on the wrong side on that. The whole gerrymandering thing, Pritzker got nationally recognized for being on the wrong side on that. So there's many, many things where I think there's disenfranchised people in Illinois who will they vote for Pritzker for a 3rd term if there's Pritzker fatigue. And so I think there's a real opportunity for a Republican, done right, a unifier who can bring together those disparate groups. You got to be able to persuade them, because we're talking about independents and centrist Democrats. You've got to be able to work with them, communicate with them the problems of the state, and that, hey, Republicans, you can't blame Republicans for the mess that's happened here. Give us a chance. Like Trump said, what have you got to lose? So I think that there's a real chance at least at getting to that battle for that 50% plus one. It's there, it's reachable, but has to be great execution here in Illinois among Republicans.
You mentioned the suburbs and Bailey just getting wiped out in the suburbs in 2022, which happened. So how do you get back to sort of the numbers that Ronner pulled in the suburbs in 14, or frankly even 18 would have probably been enough? How do you get back to those numbers? I mean, you're from the suburbs, you're a professional guy from the North Shore, so I guess that helps somewhat. But is it? Do you think is it public safety? Is it sort of the business climate here, tax and spend policy? What do you think?
Well, I think I think still the kitchen table issues. Obviously, the people who live in the suburbs, especially in the North Shore and places like that, they can handle more taxes and they can handle more mess because, they're sufficiently wealthy, but nobody wants to live in an environment where Illinois is kind of the laughingstock of things. And you feel kind of ripped off if your property taxes keep going up and yet the services keep going down. And so I think there's an ability to persuade people just on the kitchen table issues of it's just too expensive to live here. There aren't enough good jobs. Our kids can't read. But I think there's the other element, and just it has to be done well and has to be communicated well, is that, we've gone too far in our schools with the DEI. We've gone too far in the boys and girls sports. There's enough people who they can see that things are out of whack because of those kind of things. And so, the parental control loss, there's going to be a lot of parents who feel like, I don't like this where I've lost my rights as a parent. And again, we're talking about winning at the margins, right, Dan? We're not trying to win everybody, and certainly the people who are on the other end of the spectrum will never come our way. It's really just trying to find the pockets of disenfranchisement, whether it's between blacks, Latinos, or the suburban mobs who feel like they've lost control of their rights. Just adding them up, being persuadable, and just being consistent, and just getting to that 50% plus one.
Well, and you mentioned, I mean, so you're going to lean into the cultural issues, which has been something that a lot of Republicans have been loath to do, or to the extent they've done it ham-handedly, like Bailey did last go around. Your running mate, Dr. Carrie Mendoza, has been outspoken on the trans issue as well as it pertains to children. She's a medical doctor. And so that's something that will have to be taken up because it presents a contrast between you and Pritzker. So I just a little bit more color on that, and then concern after what we've seen, the political violence in this environment right now, concern for, speaking commonsensically, but with moral clarity about issues of cultural import like that. I'm glad you used the word moral clarity, because I think that's our power. There's different approaches to talk about these cultural issues, and if you live in Georgia or Alabama, you can speak about them more strongly because there's much more alignment in the South with the strong cultural conservative values. Up here in the North Shore and in the western suburbs, we've got to speak about it smartly, right? We can't shove these things down people's throat. And you take a book like Abigail Schreier writing about the trans movement. She does it very professionally, very very scientifically, very think about mental health. And that's what's great about Carrie. Carrie has been involved. She's an emergency doctor. She's a medical doctor, and she sees a lot of mental health cases in these safety net hospitals. She understands these problems, and so when you think about trans, she's concerned about what happens to these kids, their mental health, if they're transitioning at 13, and how you have to. You better be damn talking about it. You better have the parents engaged, not out of the picture, and have them engaged. Talk about the issues and make sure you protect these children, because it's not right to be transitioning. She's also engaged in detransitioning, right, where you see people feel like, wow, I made a huge mistake when I was 13. I'm 23 now. I can't do anything about it. And this is a big part of the thing that doesn't get discussed. Both Carrie and I will say, look, anybody who's an adult can do anything they want, right? That's it's a free world. We're talking about what happens to kids when they're 13 or 14 or 15, and they're making physical, medical decisions on their body that they can't undo 5 years later. And that has to be a massive discussion and controlled, like we're saying. We're seeing Trump push back against it. Hospitals have been cutting it back. It's moving in the right direction, but we need serious discussion on it. Well, and we've used some of Carrie's remarks on this program because, one of the things that she talks about, which is really center cut right now, is the politicization of science generally, the politicization of science and medicine. And so that's really where she's coming from, which is great to have a medical doctor who has the standing to talk specifically about her, practical experience as well as her, sort of belief system when it comes to the Hippocratic Oath.
Oh, absolutely. And during COVID, I got to work with her a lot during COVID, and she hated that part where you couldn't dissent on what was going on during COVID. Yeah, we lost our voice, we lost our freedoms, and she was a big fighter of that. That's number one. I think the other big part of her lived experience in these hospitals is she sees how difficult it is to give care to the very people you're trying to take care of. The layers, the bureaucracy, the lack of freedom to discuss things is really hurting her ability to treat her patients, and that's she'll talk a lot about that.
All right, before we let you go, just in terms of those kitchen table issues you mentioned, how do we make Illinois a state that is opportunity rich and where the cost of living is reasonable and people's homes aren't being liquidated by property taxes and all the things that you've been talking about for these last 15 years?
What's amazing is, obviously, if we have a few minutes, little time for that in terms of detail. But what I get so inspired about was, I lived, before I came back to Illinois in 2007, I lived in Poland for 9 years. And I got to work with everybody where we just wiped out and I was just one part. I'm not going to overplay it. I was one part of the many people working in Poland, but we wiped out all the bad things that we went from an economy there that was all controlled and owned by the state, by the government, to one of free markets again in the private sector. In Illinois, we've moved so far away from letting the markets do their things. We have too many government controls, too much government spending, too many government mandates, top-down mandates. It's become molasses. I was with a business person yesterday, and he said that every law that's passed only inhibits his ability to do business here. And he said he's not going to invest here anymore. He's going to invest in his other states again. And this is the kind of stuff where we have to unwind, undo, take away these burdens, take away the mandates, and let our people and our cities and our companies manage themselves. You've got to end these top-down mandates. So it's a big task, but I do think that with the right spirit and the right agency heads, because remember, the governor gets to name a whole bunch of agency heads, we can really change the culture in Illinois and change it to a culture of growth and optimism.
Ted Dowski is a Republican candidate for governor in Illinois. TedForIllinois.com is his website for more information on his candidacy. Ted, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dan.
And Ted joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr. Now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Have you heard a lot of buzz about tariffs?
No.
Really?
What's a tariff?
It's a tax on imported goods.
Well, I've never heard of tariffs because 92.3% of Penny Mustard's furniture is made in the USA.
True.
In fact, most of it is built by local craftsmen and women right here in the Midwest.
And locally sourced furniture will never have a tariff on it.
Can we talk about this later? I'm tired of hearing about these tariffs.
So I guess you can say that all this talk about tariffs is taxing.
PennyMustard.com.
Is cremation an option you're considering for you or your loved one? At Catholic cemeteries, we offer sacred, permanent places of rest where loved ones can be remembered, prayed for, and visited for generations. Too often, cremated remains are brought home, only to end up in closets, basements, or forgotten on shelves. Memorialization is forever. Honor their life. Preserve your legacy. Visit us today at CatholicCemeteryChicago.org to schedule a free consultation or call 708-236-5490.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are high interest payments becoming too much to bear? Luckily, there's a way for consumers struggling with over $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans to significantly reduce the amount they owe if they qualify. Qualifying for this debt relief program, which the credit card companies prefer to keep secret, will only require you to pay back a fraction of what you owe with one affordable monthly payment. You don't have to file bankruptcy or need a debt consolidation loan. Consumers can now take advantage of this financial debt relief during the current economic downturn and rising inflation. If you owe $10,000 or even $500,000 in credit card debt or personal loans, call the Debt Relief Advocates Helpline now for this free information and to see if you qualify. Call 800-466-4131. 800-466-4131. Again, that's 800-466-4131.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:08, what Americans really think about crime and public safety, their assessments. Michael Baharine, Chief Policy Analyst at the Liberal Patriot, joins us at 8:08. And also, next hour, hopefully we'll be able to squeeze it in. Favorite role of Robert Redford, who passed away at the age of 89, The Natural. There's my tip-off. It is now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
This is a Fox News alert. A Hollywood legend has died. I'm Dave Anthony. Actor and Oscar-winning director Robert Redford died in his sleep overnight in his home in Utah.
His career as one of Hollywood's leading men spanned more than 6 decades, and his biggest films include Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, All the President's Men, The Sting, The Way We Were, and The Natural.
I remember signing a contract to play ball, not to be put to sleep by some 2-bit carny hypnotist. I won't do that.
You're going down.
It took me a long time to get here, Pop. I won't do it. I can't.
He won an Oscar for directing 1980's Ordinary People. Redford was also an environmental activist and launched the Sundance Film Festival in the 80s. Robert Redford was 89.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Tyler Robinson's due in court later today to face murder and other charges in Charlie Kirk's assassination.
The alleged killer still, as far as we know, has not confessed to killing Charlie Kirk to law enforcement, but it appears that hours before turning himself in, that he did confess to a group of friends in an online chat. In those messages obtained by the Washington Post to a group of about 30 people, the suspect allegedly said this: "Hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments."
That's Fox's Garrett Tenney at the Utah County Jail this hour. FBI Director Kash Patel will face questions at a Senate hearing about the Kirk assassination investigation. We've also heard this morning from Attorney General Pam Bondi following some reactions on the left celebrating the murder of Kirk, a conservative activist.
Attorney General Bondi writes in a social media post, "Hate speech that crosses the line into threats of violence is not protected by the First Amendment. It's a crime. For far too long, we've watched the radical left normalize threats, call for assassinations, and cheer on political violence. That era is over."
That's Fox's Chris Foster. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 70 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Freddie Hammer. Sunny today with a high of 78. 2 children and a woman were found dead in Lake Michigan over the weekend near Southside beaches. According to WLS, the Cook County Medical Examiner identified the victims as 1-year-old Dream J.C. Washington and 6-year-old Wyatt Bryden Patton, both from Madison. Washington was discovered late Saturday morning near 57th Street Beach, while Patton and a 31-year-old woman were recovered near 63rd Street Beach later that afternoon. Police believe the deaths are connected and may have stemmed from a domestic dispute. The woman's identity has not been released and causes of death are still pending. Immigration and Customs Enforcement made arrests in Chicago's Little Village Monday, one day after the Mexican Independence Day parade. According to WLS, witnesses say a Venezuelan man was detained at 24th and Albany. Community members report that agents did not leave information for the family. However, hours later, another man was taken into custody nearby. Local groups are assisting families and urging residents to know their rights. ICE has not made any statements. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker signed an executive order last week to safeguard vaccine access amid federal policy changes. According to CBS Chicago, the statewide vaccine access initiative led by the Illinois Department of Public Health aims to ensure residents can receive vaccines for COVID-19, flu, RSV, and more. The order directs pharmacies and clinics to administer vaccines under a standing order and calls for clear public guidance and school-based support. This comes as HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. rolls back CDC recommendations, prompting concern from health officials nationwide. And a strike was narrowly avoided in Romeoville, where Valley View teachers reached a tentative deal with District 365U. According to CBS Chicago, the agreement comes amid disputes over pay and school start times. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Making smiles great again. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Delta Airlines has been ordered to end its joint venture with Mexico's Grupo Aeromexico. The Trump administration says the partnership is anti-competitive. It has allowed for common pricing and other benefits. The Federal Reserve meeting today and tomorrow is expected to conclude with a 0.25% cut. Investors will be listening for clues about future interest rate cuts. The Wall Street Journal says Berkshire Hathaway has huge holdings of cash in U.S. Treasuries. Aggressive cuts could reduce its interest income by more than $3 billion over the next year. Restaurant entertainment chain Dave & Buster's says its sales at existing stores declined 3% in the recent quarter. It's in the process of making changes to improve business. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jean Poselda, invested in you.
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill, from pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Robert Anderson, president of McLaughlin Body Company in the Quad Cities, and a customer of Signature Bank. When our 100-year-old family-owned manufacturing company was looking for a new bank, we found an excellent partner with Signature Bank. Signature Bank understands the challenges with manufacturing in today's highly competitive environment. We recently participated in a new markets tax credit program, and we're fortunate to have the experts at Signature Bank help us navigate the complexities of this program. With Signature Bank's support, we were able to expand not only our facility, but ultimately our business. If you're looking for a trusted banking partner for your business, look to Chicago's own Signature Bank.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Chicago businesses, you can't afford to be down. You don't have time to wait for IT support. You need one company that does IT well and does it right. Meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Chicago owned, Chicago run, and serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore. Access One is the trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. Access One is your one vendor for everything tech. Let's talk. Call 800-804-8333 or visit accessoneInc.com. That's accessoneInc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
Are you living with dry AMD? If so, you could be on the road to geographic atrophy, or GA, a condition that leads to retinal cell death and permanent vision loss. But with Izervay, you can
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay slows GA progression by targeting a key source of retinal cell death, which may help preserve your vision longer. Izervay, or Avastin Captid Pagel, is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com. Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic service of Goldilocks, a 23-minute ride on the inbound Edens Lake Cook to Montrose, 28 minutes outbound Edens Montrose to Lake Cook. On the Kennedy inbound Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, 33 minutes, and a 20-minute ride on the Kennedy outbound from the Byrne Interchange to Montrose. Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, you're looking at 64 minutes, a 33-minute ride on the Eisenhower outbound from the Old Post Office to Wolf. On the Stevenson inbound from 355 to Lakeshore Drive, 68 minutes. And a 42-minute ride with your Tuesday morning drive on the Dan Ryan inbound 95th to the Byrne Interchange. Goldilocks, offering Chicagoland's state-of-the-art smart security systems to protect your home or business. AM 560 listeners receive 3 months of monitoring free with new installs. Get peace of mind by calling Goldilocks at 708-889-5600. Again, that's 708-889-5600. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now here's the latest forecast forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be very warm with plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 61. Tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies and continued warmth with a high of 84. Thursday will feature sun shining through high clouds, remaining very warm with a high of 87. Friday will be mostly cloudy, but still warm with a high of 83. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. There's a couple of categories of crime, it seems to me, that raise the level of consciousness about street violence in big cities, and to the extent that it metastasizes into outlying communities as well. Stories like this, where it matters, where it's not the murder du jour on the south or west side. I'm not saying this should be the case. I'm saying it is. The story last week of the smash and grab robbery at Louis Vuitton on Michigan Avenue. 7 men have been charged with felony murder. Broke into the Louis Vuitton. Of course, most of them had arrest records. One of them works as an anti-violence peacekeeper. Another one of these stories, who protects the public from the peacekeepers. This was just before 5 a.m. last Thursday morning. Several men running through the compromised storefront, smash and grab, running out with trash bags full of merchandise valued at between $500,000 and $1 million. One of the cars sped south on Michigan Avenue, slamming into an SUV on Ohio Street and killing Mark Arcetta, who was on his way to work his last shift at Northwestern University before taking paternity leave. His described as his partner. We're having a baby right now. He's supposed to be with us. They took a very loving father, really good partner, and very good dad. Michigan Avenue, main drag, Gold Coast. This is where people take notice. Another kind of category of crime where people take notice is when it is particularly barbaric and preventable in the sense that this is somebody that the crime involves somebody with a violent past, multiple time loser, just in and out, and every time he gets out, he commits another violent act. He creates another victim that sends him back in until he gets back out. This 65-year-old, 4-time convicted felon charged with murdering a woman whose remains were discovered inside a burning garage, and then sexually assaulting another woman within hours after that, according to Chicago police. Predators. Irredeemable. The decision has to be made at some point. That's what gets people thinking about things like the National Guard, particularly when the response is to rationalize or contextualize this sort of barbarism, as we have our political leaders in Chicago and Illinois do. So President Trump is sending the National Guard to Memphis with the cooperation of the governor of Tennessee, as well as, I understand, the mayor of Memphis, who's a Democrat. That's interesting. And he's also still trolling Chicago about Chicago being next. May or may not be, but the point is that the more areas where he is party to increasing the peace on the streets, D.C., maybe Memphis now, hopefully Memphis now, the more it puts pressure on these other big city mayors and blue state governors to do more than offer lip service in the direction of preventable crime. But just exactly what are Americans' attitudes about crime and public safety? Maybe these politicians like a Brandon Johnson, like a J.B. Pritzker, maybe they know more politically than it appears that they know in terms of the positions they take. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Michael Baharine, who is the chief political analyst at the Liberal Patriot. Also, his Substack, Michael Baharine, .substack.com. Michael, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan. Good morning.
So, I mean, it's a fascinating piece that you wrote. So people think crime is a big problem except where they live. And that's just like almost categorical across the country. It's really incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we did in this piece was we kind of broke down, essentially what do Americans actually think about crime? Well, how do they perceive it, in their own community versus the nation as a whole? And yeah, definitely at the national level, people see it as a major problem. Actually, about 2/3 of Americans do. And, it's improved. Those sentiments have improved a little bit since the kind of COVID surge where people were really concerned. But they're still really high. And what I like to say is that people think that relatively better levels of crime does not still mean acceptable levels of crime. And so, yes, I think people are feeling a little bit better about being able to go out right now without being accosted. But at the same time, I think people still look around. They still see the news. They still see, they hear these shocking stories in places like Charlotte, about these brutal stabbings and murders. And they still think, look, I mean, this is not acceptable. Even if the statistics tell one story that things have maybe gotten better in terms of homicides or whatever else, this stuff still shocks the conscience, and it doesn't seem like our leaders really are doing much about it.
Well, it's sort of the, Congress is a big problem, but not my congressman. He or she is not part of the problem.
Exactly.
And so the large cities, the United States, a supermajority of people think that crime is a major problem. Your community, small town, rural areas, a majority and a supermajority say not. Well, actually, supermajorities in both say not really a problem, or it's a minor problem. And so it's one of those things where, I've tried to impress this upon people. Like, people who live in the suburbs of Chicago, they see what's happening in Chicago and they say, well, yeah, it's a problem in Chicago, so I'm not going to go down there. But that doesn't mean that I believe it's a problem here. It's safe in my community, which it generally speaking is. And also what's happening in Chicago isn't going to change my vote. And then in large cities, they say it's a major problem, but 90% of Republicans think it's getting worse, while just less than 1 in 3 Democrats do. So, so you still have this dynamic where those who are experiencing it, not from a distance, are still have to, like, this is just my interpretation, sort of rationalizing the political choices they make. So it's getting worse, but I'm not going to sort of acknowledge it. And I'm certainly not going to blame the people I voted for, because that would make me part of the problem.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, crime, just like so many other issues right now, is just kind of following the wave of politics, right? So a lot of people's, one of the things that I looked at was I went back to the turn of the century, and basically what the trend line is that whichever party controls the presidency, the other party's voters see crime as a bigger problem during that time. Now, sometimes that does overlap, at other times it doesn't quite as much. But you're right. I mean, look, I think part of the issue here is that, for some people who don't themselves experience crime on a daily basis, they may be more prone to thinking, well, it's not really that big a deal. Like what's everybody so upset about? And I take Washington, D.C., where I lived for over a decade, as an example of this, where, D.C., your experience with crime, and I'm sure it's very similar in a place like Chicago, it very much can depend on what part of the city do you live in, because there are some areas that are quite safe, right? And then there are other areas, areas that are lower income, that have higher rates of poverty. And people in those areas do actually experience crime a lot more frequently, whether it's carjackings or street robberies or whatever else it might be. And, so I think part of this perception gap has to do with what you actually experience on a daily basis. And even in places like D.C., it's probably similar in Chicago, where, there are some kind of common spaces like public transportation or, just busy business districts. You talked about Michigan Avenue. I think of places like DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C., where, yes, these are places that are highly trafficked and, generally safe, and yet you still see stories about shocking crimes happening, stray bullets flying through or smash and grabs that happen in broad daylight. And all of this just contributes to a sense for a lot of people of just social disorder, that their leaders don't have control of their own streets, of their own cities. And, that kind of creates fertile ground for people to say, you know what, fine, why don't you just bring in the National Guard, bring in the military? What else what could go wrong? Because the status quo isn't working.
Mm-hmm. And just some other things you measure too. You sort of mentioned it. Public transit is another thing in terms of trying to measure what people who actually think about it in the cities. I mean, I look at it from afar. I don't use public transit, but there's enough stories there that suggest I don't want to use public transit either. But for those who do use it on a daily basis, maybe the experience is different, or maybe they separate things like an actual act of violence from just the uneasiness that is attended to it with vagrancy or people that are mentally ill loitering on a train or on a platform.
Yeah, and it's kind of so the survey looks nationally, and I think part of what's a little tricky here is that this may vary a little bit from city to city, right? So in a place like DC, you have actually a pretty cross mix of riders on public transit. You have higher income, working professionals who take public transit. It's faster than taking a car. You have working class, lower income people also taking it, and so it's highly populated. You may be a little bit less likely to see issues on the trains in those cases, but in cities where it's mostly lower income riders, like I'm in Atlanta right now, and most of the people taking it are lower income. Those trains are not very well kept, and you have more kind of incidents in these places. And so to some extent, sure, if you're taking a train on a daily basis, and especially if it's during work hours and commuting hours, and the trains are pretty full, you may not have any issues. But one of the interesting things is that the poll that you're referencing kind of lumps together people who say that public transit is very safe and or somewhat safe. And those are two kind of different sentiments.
Yeah, right.
You might think it's right. You might think it's somewhat safe, but that does mean then you're still kind of looking around and making sure. I mean, I had this experience too. When I would take the metro in DC, I would look around and I would just kind of be keeping my eyes about me and making sure I knew who was around, and I wouldn't get into an empty car if it was late at night and those kinds of things. And so, you feel like if you're in a public space, you just want to know that you're not going to have issues. And for people who have that kind of sense of unease, that just contributes to what's this thought that, what's going on here? Why do I have to be constantly alert just to make sure I get home safely from, my job or from going out in the evening?
With the reaction, the survey research here that I saw when we were at the height of Trump threatening the National Guard into Chicago was basically majority opposition to it, but particularly among whites in the wealthier areas of the city, much less so among blacks and Latinos in some of the less wealthy areas, which is probably not much of a surprise who's experiencing the crime. But I wonder if you think the Dems go too far, just politically speaking, when they say things like we heard many politicians say that this is all a manufactured crisis. That Trump has manufactured, the typical crime is at a 30-year low in D.C. or Chicago, murders are down and so on and so forth. So this is just a manufactured crisis. I wonder if you think that that works for them, or that is political tone deafness that is dangerous for them politically.
Yeah, I think what's tricky for Democrats is that, we've seen sort of this play out since Trump's first term, which is that there's just this tendency anytime Trump stakes out a position on one side to just take the opposite position. And what it risks doing is putting themselves on the wrong side of public opinion at times on issues that people really care about. And I actually wrote about this today, but on the crime issue specifically, look, I think it's fair to say people can take a nuanced approach to it. You don't have to overstate the reality on the ground, but you should also, realize that people have genuine fears and concern, or just even concerns about their streets, about their public transportation, about even living in their homes safely. And I think what Democrats risk doing here is, if Trump says, you know what, I think crime's a problem, I'm going to take charge of controlling it. And Democrats, instead of saying, well, you might have a point, let's see where we can work together, just say, what are you talking about? Crime's not a problem. then they do come across as tone deaf, especially in some of these areas, like you mentioned, the lower income areas, areas with a lot of minorities that experience higher crime. You know, they kind of look at the Democrats and they're like, well, what are you talking about? Like, do you not think our concerns are legitimate? And so, you know, I think if they took a little bit more of a balanced approach to saying, well, let's, you know, make sure that we're all working off of the same information, but we also want to be helpful here. We want to make sure that people do live safely. I think people would appreciate that. But right now, so far, especially from leaders, you know, ranging from Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries in D.C. to even J.B. Pritzker and some of the comments he's made in response to Trump, I don't think you're really seeing that balanced approach right now.
No, and it's you know, it's sort of interesting to watch them have to run cover to the local police departments, like the Chicago Police Department, that many of these same politicians were promoting defunding of just a couple of years earlier.
Yeah.
And well,
yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say, I think, you know, part of what we've seen also in the polling here is that, you know, while people do kind of in the aggregate, they don't want to see necessarily the National Guard basically coming in and taking control of these police departments. They feel for their police. Like, average citizens understand that, like, police resources are strained oftentimes, and that can have an impact. And that, yeah, some of that might have been some due to the fallout from 2020 and efforts to take away funding from these departments. So, you know, like the Associated Press had a poll just this last week that basically asked, do people support Trump using the National Guard to assist local police? And on that measure, it was 55-37 in support, overwhelming support from Republicans, plurality support from independents, and even a third of Democrats were like, you know what? Yeah, I think that's fair. So, you know, I think there is somewhat of a disconnect even between the party's leaders and some of their own voters when it comes to some of these issues.
Michael Baharine, Chief Policy Analyst at the Liberal Patriot, also his Substack, michaelbaharine.substack.com. Michael, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. The Dinesh D'Souza Podcast.
This is the important thing to recognize about Trump is he's a very transactional guy. Trump will impose a penalty, and if you come to him and say, well, let's make a deal. This is the actual opposite of socialism. This is called cutting a deal to make something work. And I think that's all that goes through Trump's mind.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza Podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. You probably know I help business owners fight back against the IRS, but did you know I can help with state taxes too? Right now, Illinois is about to open a rare tax amnesty program. For a short window of time, you can pay certain back taxes and have the state wipe out the penalties and interest, no strings attached. But here's the thing, once that window closes, the chance to save is gone. The Illinois Department of Revenue will announce the exact start date and requirements any day now. When they do, the clock will start ticking. Go to fightbacknow.com and sign up for my daily email. I'll give you clear updates the moment news breaks, walk you through exactly what you need to do, and help you avoid mistakes that can cost you thousands. Don't get caught off guard. When the state offers a deal like this, you have to move quickly. Go now to fightbacknow.com and get on the list, because when the clock runs out, so does your opportunity to wipe out those extra charges and save big. That's fightbacknow.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity, and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Hi, my name is Dr. Michael Huber. During cold and flu season, a nearby cough or sneeze can trigger a familiar dread, that helpless feeling of being defenseless against an invisible viral threat. But what if you could change the narrative? What if you could fortify your body's natural defenses? This is why I developed Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail designed to give your body the upper hand. Virago is more than a supplement. It's a revolutionary liquid formula packed with 23 powerful natural nutraceuticals for rapid absorption. This unique blend is scientifically crafted to help build resilience and keep you protected. Don't just hope for good health. Make it happen with Virago. Virago and Maha, making America healthy again.
Virago. Order your bottle today online at myvirago.com and use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. myvirago.com. Coupon code IMMUNE.
AM 560, The Answer.
Best Robert Redford role. I mean, Jeremiah Johnson was great, but it's hard to beat The Natural. Part of the magic of The Natural, the relationship between him and Glenn Close, both in the story as well as on screen. I mean, two great actors.
Now I believe we have two lives.
What do you mean?
The life we learn with, and the life we live with after that. With or without the records, they'll remember you.
I could have been better. I could have broke every record in the book.
And then?
And then when I walked down the street, people would have looked and they would have said, there goes Roy Hobbs. The best there ever was in this game.
Maybe we'll get to more Redford before the show is out. But coming up at 8:38, we go Maha with senior nutrition educator at Now Foods, Neil Levin. Maha at 8:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 72 degrees in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Freddie Hammer. Sunny today with a high of 78. There was a deadly shooting in Chicago's Uptown overnight. 17-year-old Khalif Norwood was gunned down near Argyle Street just after midnight. Police say a group of men approached before one opened fire. Norwood was rushed to Illinois Masonic Hospital, where he later died. No suspects are in custody at this time as detectives investigate. An ICE agent injured in Franklin Park after being dragged by a car has been released from the hospital. The driver, identified as Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, was shot and killed during the encounter. Officials say he tried to flee during an attempted arrest. A full investigation is underway. And Chicago's CTA is installing free Naxalone vending machines at 5 rail stations. The opioid reversal drug will be available anonymously and at no cost, aiming to save lives and reduce overdose deaths across the city. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it's possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Making smiles great again. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill, from pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
Does your garage floor look lousy with stained or cracked concrete, or even worse, bad epoxy or paint? Call Comer and Cross Concrete Floors now. During their end-of-the-year sale at 1-800-NEW-FLOOR right now, you'll get the best price of the year guaranteed, starting with $750 off. At Comer and Cross Garage Floor, they are the gold standard, guaranteed to never chip, crack, or show tire lift like epoxy or bad paint. And they'll make it so easy, they're in and out in one day. They'll fix your cracks, the pits, and they fix them perfectly the first time. They're certified, they're uniformed, they're employees. They'll even take the stuff out of your garage for you, whether you're in Chicago, Milwaukee, or Indiana. Now is the time to call them for the best price of the year, guaranteed, starting with $750 off right now during their end-of-the-year garage sale. Here's the number. It's easy. 1-800-NEW-FLOOR. That's 1-800-NEW-FLOOR, or go to COMERcross.com.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call now at 800-533-6605 for a free consultation. For 17 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and a Christian-owned company. Don't get stuck in the endless cycle of payments. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Christian-owned Total Financial Freedom now at 800-533-6605. That's 800-533-6605. 800-533-6605.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Alpha Wealth Group, bringing the trilogy of estate, tax, and investment planning together. Visit alphawealthgroup.com for a free report.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic, a service of Thrivent. Eden's inbound Lake Cook to Montrose, 18 minutes, 28 minutes. On the outbound, Eden's Montrose to Lake Cook. On the Kennedy inbound Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, you're looking at 41 minutes. And on the Kennedy outbound from the Byrne Interchange to Montrose, 20 minutes. Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 54 minutes. And on the Eisenhower outbound from the Old Post Office to Wolf, a 40-minute ride. A broken down vehicle in your left center lane outbound right before Austin Boulevard. On the Stevenson inbound, 355 to Lakeshore Drive, 61 minutes and a 38-minute ride time. On the Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Byrne Interchange. At Thrivent, planning your financing is bigger than money. It's a way to support the people, causes, and community you love. Because the most important thing isn't what you're planning for, it's who. Thrivent, where money means more. Connect with them at Thrivent.com. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now here's the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be very warm with plenty of sunshine, reaching a high of 84. Tonight will be clear with a low of 61. Tomorrow, expect mostly sunny skies and continued warmth with a high of 84. Thursday will bring sun shining through high clouds and very warm temperatures, reaching a high of 87. By Friday, it will be mostly cloudy but remaining warm with a high of 83. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So, dietary supplements, huge business sector. And part of the conversation, I guess, under the umbrella of MAHA, Making America Healthy Again, right? We're pleased to be joined by a senior nutrition educator at Now Foods. Now Foods is located right here in Bloomingdale. One of the largest, maybe the largest independent maker of food supplements that is family owned and privately held. Neil Levin, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Maybe just pull that mic a little closer so we can hear you better. There you go. This is really interesting, just reading up on Now Foods, that you guys have been essentially a whistleblower with respect to fraudulent dietary supplements that are being sold on Amazon and online elsewhere. Tell us about that.
Yeah, since 2017, we've been doing a series of tests of no-name El Cheapo products sold on Amazon that are too good price. Maybe the price is below the wholesale we can pay for it, and we're a huge purchaser with a lot of purchasing power, or too much potency. So we test them in our own labs. Our labs are International Standards Organization certified, so we have a good accreditation. We also send it to a third-party lab for confirmatory testing, both our product in that category and competing products. And we don't test our normal competitors. We're testing these guys who are cheating. And most of the products are failing. We notify the FDA, we notify Amazon. Some of the products we've tested a couple of times, maybe 2 years apart. They're still on the market. They're still being sold. There are no regulatory actions to do this. We're taking a risk. It's a financial risk. We're doing the testing. We're paying for third-party testing. We're risking being sued by companies. And we're seeing no action on that. And last year, one of the congressmen, a Republican from South Carolina, sent a letter to the FDA. How come you're not doing anything when you're presented with this evidence that fraudulent products are out there? And basically the response is, well, we don't listen to hearsay.
And right, and you're doing you're paying for it and doing the medical test. I mean, the testing on the scientific testing on it too. Right. So they're fraudulent in the sense that these are placebos, or they're fraudulent in the sense that they're potentially dangerous.
Well, some of them could be dangerous. They don't contain what they say on the label. Some of them have had junk in there, like cellulose or something non-active. Other ones have a fraction of what they're labeling, and they're charging the price for. One of the problems is that if someone buys this, they might think that supplements don't work. I tried it.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, I mean, it's interesting you bring this up because I'm reading about this too, talking not just about dietary supplements, but muscle building supplements too. A buddy of mine who, is a caddy that I know, he was hospitalized for 60 days last winter because he was taking sort of these cheap knockoff, what he thought were muscle building supplements. And whatever was in there, it gave him a serious case of pancreatitis. And so he was hospitalized for, as I said, 2 months. It was pretty bad. And so this just talking about the sort of things that are out there that you're trying to police. I suppose I'm putting words in your mouth, but I suppose this is, in the interest of quality control for your industry.
Yeah, we're self-policing at our own risk and our own cost. We're trying to get regulators to do that. And our industry for decades has been asking for more funding for the FDA for enforcement regulation, to do more audits. Why haven't they gone to these companies and audited them for good manufacturing practices required by federal law and shut these guys down? Why haven't they recalled the products? We want action. We want enforcement. How many industries come to you and tell you that?
Right. Are you seeing any better movement under the Trump administration than you have previously?
Well, we definitely have more access. Our CEO, Jim Emmy, great guy, and he's now the president of the Natural Products Association, and he and the executive director, a former director at FDA for supplements, have gone to the White House, have met with RFK Jr., and now are telling them about these issues so that we're hopeful the new administration is going to finally take action on this.
So now, on the one hand, there's a lack of oversight, and on the other hand, I understand there's too much regulation in terms of censorship, right? I mean, that's an issue in the industry as well.
Yeah, there's a real freedom of speech issue. There's now a lawsuit to try to force the FDA to accept 118 different health claims that are based on publications by federal agencies that the FDA is not allowing for us to put on product labels. If you mention anything about a disease on a label, it requires FDA approval on a supplement. Any disease claim makes a product a drug unless they specifically authorize an exception. There's only a handful of exceptions. Most of them have gone through because of lawsuits. And now there's a massive lawsuit trying to force them to accept other government agencies' conclusions that supplements have a role in health and preventing or mitigating disease.
So tell us how that works. So like the Department of Agriculture investigates a supplement and draws a conclusion, and they put out a paper that's peer-reviewed on it, and then you want to say, well, we've got this peer-reviewed paper that says our supplement or this category of supplements has these beneficial health effects, and we want to include that on our marketing products, and the FDA says no? Is that basically it?
They typically turn down almost every application.
And I mean, is there any explanation, or it's just sort of the imperious government agency that just, gives you the Caesarean thumbs up or thumbs down?
They kind of want the drug standard of 2 clinical studies, large populations on a specific product. And they really like single ingredients more than formulas. Just like drugs, they want to approve a substance rather than a product.
Right. Okay. And then what is your interaction, a company like Now, what is their interaction with other federal agencies or with maybe academic or research institutions that will do studies on products as well?
Well, we do sometimes donate products to universities for studies. We have no real control over the makeup of the study, how it's set up. But, our products have been used in literally hundreds of studies. And some of them, for example, there's a study at a university in California on one of our products showing a benefit for osteoarthritis, as effective and fewer side effects than a medication. We actually are mandated to make that claim on the product in Canada. We cannot make anything like that claim in the United States.
You have to make it in Canada. You're not allowed to make it in the United States.
Exactly.
That's interesting. And so, do you explain this in part or maybe in whole because of the political influence of pharma, big pharma, or what is it?
It's partially big pharma, but they do own some of the ingredients and some of the brands.
Yeah, okay.
But it's also a lot of the medical professionals are not trained in nutrition, which is one of the things that the current Health and Human Services is trying to get through, is mandate more nutrition training for doctors. So if your only tool is a hammer, all your problems look like nails. Doctors are trained in surgery and drugs, not necessarily nutrition. So they kind of poo-poo and negate that there's any benefit because they really don't know.
And so, are you encouraged by sort of RFK Jr.'s posture to look at childhood obesity and other systemic illnesses in children and have a broader conversation about the sorts of approaches and products potentially that should be used?
Yeah, we do support that holistic view.
And so now the censorship claim. So now that's sort of the same process. So on the one hand, you're trying to get to Makary and the decision makers at FDA on going after providing oversight on people that are making fraudulent claims. On the other hand, you're trying to get them to unlock your ability to make scientifically back claims. So, it's sort of like in typical government fashion, they seem to have it wrong on both sides.
Yeah, there's less freedom of speech commercially than there is for general people.
Sure, right, okay. To some extent that, one would suspect that, but to a point of rationality, that's, or to a point of irrationality, I guess, is the problem. So what about, your perspective on the very popular GLP-1 weight loss drugs that seem to be all the rage?
Well, I think they work short term, but we're seeing a lot of side effects and problems with people using them long term. So we're looking at more natural alternatives to try to hit those same pathways. But of course, people eating a more holistic diet, like the MAHA type program, is probably a more sustainable way to go. Instead of people just keep eating the same junk and cutting out some of it, eat more healthy.
No, so it's like, what do we know about the medium or long-term side effects of Ozempic and these other weight loss drugs? Are we still sort of in the infancy of full understanding, or do we have a pretty good idea what some of the pitfalls are, potential pitfalls?
Well, we're starting to see things like people are not getting enough nutrients because they're cutting out a lot of foods, and they're cutting out healthy foods, not necessarily unhealthy foods. So, their nutrient profile is not necessarily going up. They're not necessarily supporting their health any better. They're sometimes hurting their health, and then they're getting other side effects affecting metabolism and things like that. So the downstream things, how it's affecting neurotransmitters or hormones, have not really been looked at closely enough yet.
So what is on something like that, like supplements and nutrient-rich diets, and then pharmaceutical drugs? Like, what is the relationship between a company like Now and some of the big drug makers? Do you have one? Are there collegial conversations about some of these public health issues, or is it two very different approaches, and so sort of never the two intersect?
Some of the pharmaceutical companies make ingredients that we purchase and actually have their own brands of vitamins. So we do interact with them in sense of working with them on industry trade associations. We actually develop some of the testing methods, the assay and quality methods used by industry in our own labs and publish them. And so these companies are sometimes also using our methods, and they're working with our scientists on these committees. So we do have relationships with a lot of these pharmaceutical companies, but of course their interest is more on trying to protect their own business and their own market share.
What you hope to come out of, it's a short term, at least just with the horizon of President Trump's second term here. What is it, other than those two issues we discussed with the FDA, what is it you hope will come out of the MAHA effort within these public health agencies on a go-forward basis, that will sustain on a go-forward basis?
Yeah. Well, one thing is we've been able to get some reasonable exemptions to the tariffs for essential nutrients, but there's a lot of other things that are covered in health besides vitamins and minerals, the botanicals and things that are not covered. So we're trying to work with them on this. But there's also, we're looking at this emphasis on nutrition training for doctors, on people eating more healthy, and getting the food companies, which is actually happening, to cut out these artificial ingredients that are maybe responsible for some of the behavioral problems in children, for example. So that's a very, very positive move.
He is Neil Levin. He is a senior nutrition educator at Now Foods. Again, Chicago, Bloomingdale-based, family-owned business. Been around since 1968. 1968, one of the largest independent, privately held food supplement businesses in the country. Neil Levin, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Sean Thompson here, and I'm with attorney Bert Hochberg from the law firm of Schiller, Ducanto, and Fleck. We're talking about divorce arbitration. This is not really a new, or is it a new, innovative way to go through divorce?
Arbitration has been around for decades. It's completely legit and available to resolve divorce cases. The litigants and their lawyers sign an arbitration agreement. They identify what the issues are, and we set up dates, and we determine what experts and witnesses there may be. Arbitration is a hearing, a trial that is intended to finish a case efficiently with limited appeal, with a binding decision, and it's confidential, so it has some great characteristics.
I think it's a unique alternative to divorce. For more information, please visit sdflaw.com and type Bert Hochberg into the search box. That's sdflaw.com, or call direct 773-255-6150.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Welcome back to Ask Hasselus.
That big online store has special days with ridiculously low prices. So why don't you?
We do.
You do? When?
Every day. Our 35 beds from the top 5 brands start at $393. Free next day delivery, too.
Wow.
Yeah. Plus, through Monday, get a free box spring or take an equal amount off an adjustable base.
I guess you could say that now is a prime time to buy.
Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you at Hasselus.com.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank that cares about your business and is invested in your success. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Chris Johnson, CEO of Classic Cinemas and proud customer of Signature Bank. We are a local family-owned business that is known for free refills on all sizes of popcorn, soft drinks, and ices. With over 9,000 heated recliners in 16 locations, we marry the traditions of the past with today's state-of-the-art technology. Throw in a 30-minute guarantee and an after-movie mint, and you have the perfect night out. As we strive to make every guest our priority, Signature Bank does the same with their customers. The team at Signature Bank is interested in taking my company forward. They have all the resources and solutions of the big banks, but they customize their offerings to meet my business needs. The customer always comes first with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
AM 560. The Answer.
It's time for Animal Stories with Uncle Dan.
Man, we haven't done one of these in a while. I do like the braying ass there in the intro. Meet Simon. Simon up in British Columbia had the neighborhood in a bit of a tizzy because Simon was mistaken for a woman in distress. Local news had the story.
Picture this. It's a Saturday night, and through the woods, you hear this. Naturally, you call the police, concerned that a neighbor is in need of help.
I want to say it was after 8:30, and we're just sitting there, watching Netflix, and somebody, all of a sudden, there was a very loud bang on the door.
But when local police tracked the mysterious noise by following the train tracks, what they found wasn't a woman screaming or anyone in danger at all.
He went out, and then I kind of peeked out the window, saw him talking to a sheriff, and I didn't think anything of it. And then he came back in a few minutes later, kind of smiling a little bit, and I was like, what's going on? And he goes, it's Simon.
Simon, of course, is the Hawes' 1-year-old Nigerian dwarf goat.
It's a pretty quiet neighborhood. It's busy with traffic, but it's quiet, except for us. I don't know how to make a goat be quiet, so he gets everything he needs, food, love, all of the things. He's just got a lot to say.
Simon became the talk of the town after the couple posted about the run-in on Facebook.
There was a lot of laughing, and, a few people are like, oh my gosh, I'm glad it ended the way it did. It wasn't anything serious.
For the concerned citizen who reported the commotion, Hawes is here to give closure.
Everything's good. It's just our goat.
When I initially heard that, I thought, God, that sounds like the sound that J.B. Pritzker makes when he sees a plate of broccoli. But yeah, Simon, if you hear a scream, make sure it's not your neighbor's Nigerian. Wait, what is it? Nigerian dwarf goat. 1-year-old Simon, Nigerian dwarf goat there in British Columbia. That is fantastic. Another quick animal story. We have the time. This is sort of fun, too. A neighborhood in Germany was beset by ding-dong ditchers. Boy, I haven't said that phrase in a while. Really upset because this ding-dong ditcher wouldn't leave this homeowner alone. And this is in Bavaria, in southern Germany. So much so that they called the police to investigate the relentless buzzing of their doorbells late at night. And what they found was not a teenage prankster, but a slug. The slug had been sliding up and down the bell plate, creating havoc in the building, because this was a multifamily unit, and getting residents out of their beds, in the wee hours, because they couldn't sleep because the slug was slowly going back and forth over the the bell plate and ringing different apartment doorbells. So, that's what happens in the wild. You got to think about a slug impact. Think about, for example, what was it again? Nigerian dwarf goats. I think I want one for my little place in Southwest Florida. All right. Well, that's our installment of Animal Stories. Thanks for joining us on another edition of Chicago's Morning Answer. And I did post Frank from Arlington Heights' excellent commentary and in part tribute to Charlie Kirk on X, so you can check that out as well. And feel free to share that liberally. The only thing I want you to do liberally today. We'll be back tomorrow with much, much, much more. It is now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
President Trump is about to take off for London. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
My relationship is very good with the UK, and Charles, as you know, who's now king, is my friend.
The president also